7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
The Savachi syndrome, I'm telling you, I'm like, well, holy shit, that was crazy. Wait for it. Thick and slick. All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Moto Aftermath Show, presented by TLR Coatings and Premier Custom Trailers. This is episode number 159. Trying something a little different here. I am actually recording the intro for the show after we recorded the show. So what happened is we just spent 3 hours talking to the one, the only, you've heard him on the show before, Coach Robb, me, Justin, and Cole, all in studio, all on the phone with Coach talking. I got to thank Coach a million times over for giving us time to do the podcast here and, you know, giving up almost 3 hours, like I said, for us to talk to him about things that happened before, from training AC to Dunge to things that are going on right now in the industry with different racers, etc. We kind of ran the whole gamut with it. The boys had some questions for him. I had some questions for him. He gave us a ton of insight, a ton of looking behind kind of the curtain because he's seen that. And again, just can't thank him enough. Now, before we get into that, let's go ahead and go over our sponsors here. Again, first sponsor of the show, as always, TLR Coatings. Been with us since the beginning. That is my own personal powder coating company. We do custom powder coating, Cerakoting, and vapor blasting, so make sure to look us up, tlrcoatings.com. Also, Premier Custom Trailers on board with us as another presenting sponsor this year. Do you need a trailer, commercial or residential? Premier Custom Trailers has what you need. They work with the best manufacturers in the industry and specialize in all your trailer needs. Sales, service, parts, or rental, they do it all. PremierCustomTrailers.com, located 5 minutes south of Kalamazoo on US 131 in Schoolcraft, Michigan. They put the custom in customer service, so make sure to look them up for custom trailers. They're doing some sick stuff with some newly designed toy haulers, etc., and they have all your accessories and whatnot that you could need for your trailer. Also on board with us here, JT Cycles helping us out with some of the prizes for our fantasy show. If you guys play fantasy, supercross, or motocross, we use pulpmxfantasy.com. So make sure to go in there, join our league, et cetera, et cetera. We also have a Thursday, or usually we come out with it Friday. We record it Thursday, I guess, before all the races. Fantasy podcast me and Cole do, where we talk fantasy picks from the weeks before, results, all that kind of stuff. So make sure to go listen to that. It is on the same channel here. If you want to listen to us on podcast as opposed to listening to us on YouTube, here we are on all the major podcast networks: SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcasts, so make sure to go check that out. Also, make sure to follow us on all the major social media networks. Cole is Twitter fingering, and me and him are tag teaming the Facebook and the Instagram stuff, and he's always finding some gems, so make sure to go check that out and follow us. And then, again, on here, on the YouTube channel, just make sure, hit that thumbs up button. That helps us out a lot, especially because there's some a-holes out there that give us a thumbs down before the video even goes up, which sucks. I'd also like to apologize for the kind of mess we had on last week's show. Basically, I ran into some technical issues. The video I rendered of the full show only rendered the first 36 minutes. I uploaded it, thought everything was cool. Let it go live. Obviously, any of you who watched it, the first, 50 or whatever, 100 of you, found out that, we only had the first 36 minutes. Then I did it again a second time because I thought I just uploaded the wrong file. That turned out not to be the case. It turned out the file was corrupt. So I then had to re-render, which took like 12 hours to re-render the whole 3-hour video, and I then had to re-upload it, hence the reason the show, instead of going up Tuesday like it was supposed to, didn't go up till I think like Thursday. And then luckily, like I said, we finally got it up there and going. And then I'd also like to apologize for the audio quality because that was just a matter of hardware we actually had in studio. We were trying to use a recorder that I had bought. The recorder was not really set up for doing 3 people plus a call-in. There's not enough adjustments on it volume-wise to be able to make everything work. Now, luckily, we could hear the call-in people. Just couldn't hear us quite as well. So we do have a new audio recorder that we are using this week. So if some of the levels are off, I apologize for it. It's a work in progress. I can actually monitor levels. I feel like all the levels were semi-good, but we'll take this week's podcast and we will move forward with it and see where we get to sound quality wise. But we are constantly making improvements. And hey, I appreciate you guys commenting, saying, hey, the audio sucks on this side, this part was good, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully we don't have that anymore in the future. But if we do, just know I'm not that tech savvy and I'm just working through this slowly. Thanks to everybody for watching. And now let's jump into the podcast with me, Cole, Justin, and of course, the one and only Coach Robb. All right, everybody. And now, as promised here on episode number 159 of the Moto Aftermath Show, we have Coach Robb on the phone with us here for somewhat of a long-form show. We're going to talk the season so far since we're halfway through. I know Cole and Justin have some questions for him regarding some of the past years gone by training some people. So, Coach Robb, thanks for coming on again. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. How is everything in Coach Robb's world going right now?
Good evening, guys. We are doing great. We're just enjoying the hot, muggy weather. If you can believe, we're almost on March 1st. It was freaking 89 degrees today and miserably hot. So for some of the listeners that may be up to their elbows in snow, they're not don't have a lot of sympathy for us. But, man, I got to be honest with you, the heat gets old. It gets really old early. So, but no, a good day all the way. I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly, but just varied. We just got back from California. We hosted a couple performance camps out there. We were actually at Jet Reynolds' place and had Jeff Ward come out and work with some of the riders as well. And then Jet set it back here midweek and just playing catch up. So it's great to be on the show on a Sunday evening with you guys.
Well, that is awesome. I got to say I'm headed to Florida in a little over a week, so I'm super happy that it's super hot now because it looks like it's supposed to be about 80 degrees when I get there. So
you're going to Daytona?
You're going to Daytona? Good.
No, I actually go the Tuesday after Daytona. So technically it's like 8 days, 9 days, whatever it is right now. But yeah, the 9th through the 16th I'll be down there. So, and the weather looks
to Orlando?
prime.
Where are you going?
Yeah. Oh no, we're coming to Orlando. We're big Disney people, so we're headed down to Disney for 8 days there. So we're some of those crazies that don't live in the state, but we still have the yearly passes, and yeah, so we're wild like that.
Didn't take me.
Good for you. It's nice that people still enjoy it.
In the driveway, don't you have a Mickey Mouse thing made out of brick?
Yes, my father did.
Yeah, I noticed that a while ago. I was okay.
Yeah.
I was pulling in today and noticed that.
Yeah, dude, that's been like that for like 2 years now. My father did make a Mickey head out of bricks in the center of the concrete driveway in the front of the house. Yes, that's the kind of crazy we are here.
It's pretty cool.
I love it.
It is cool.
It's refreshing. Yeah, it's refreshing, because we see it, drive by it all the time, and you tend to take it for granted. So I'm glad that it's still appreciated. And, hey, anybody that's been around Orlando recognizes that if it wasn't for Disney, I don't think we'd have the economic success that we've had. I mean, they literally put Orlando on the map, and I think a lot of people have forgotten about that.
Oh, 100%. Don't worry. At some point in the not too distant future, I'm going to be an Orlando native also for like half the year. So
what?
There you go,
dude. I'm buying a house down there in the not too distant future.
I'm
tired of winter.
I'll rent a room from you.
Well, see, look,
just haul a bike down for me so I can go down there and ride.
All right. Well, see, Rob, I guess I'm going to be there sooner rather than later because I already got 2 people to rent rooms out to. So I'm golden now. I could buy the house.
I just want to rent a spot in the garage. I just need a little 5x5.
That'll still be
square.
$600.
Yeah, that's still $600 a month. I gotta pay for this Disney habit. Okay, it's not cheap. So, all right, but we didn't get Coach on here to talk about my Disney obsession. So
we'll talk about our motocross obsession.
We are going to talk about the motocross obsession. Where do you guys want to start? Do you guys want to ask him your questions first? Because I've already had one conversation with him. So
Cole, your question is probably going to be a little bit.
Well,
shoulder.
I had another interesting question that I was just thinking of here. This is Cole, by the way, Rob.
Hey, buddy.
I had listened to the previous podcast that you did with Travis. Awesome, by the way. Great insight. Loved it. And learned a lot more
Appreciate it.
about you that I didn't know previously. The interesting that I had taken away from that was you had a history training Ashley Filet, correct?
Yes, sir.
So my question is how were you able to adapt? Obviously, everybody knows she's deaf and has some different obstacles to overcome. So what was it like training with her and having to overcome those obstacles with not being able to hear and stuff like that? Was it something you had to do a lot differently, or?
I didn't have to do anything differently, and not for the reasons that are going to seem obvious. But if you've heard me on various podcasts, and if some of the listeners may have come to some of my performance workshops, the two people that have been the absolute hardest workers I've ever had was Adam C. and Ashley Filet. And it's amazing when you look at the pit bull that's inside their belly. No matter what challenge you gave Ashley, she would never push back. In fact, she would try to, if you asked for 330s, you'd get 335s. That was just Ashley. She was very, very easy to work with because she was so driven. She knew what she wanted. The communication was very simple, actually, because she reads lips extremely well, and she can actually enunciate better than most people can give her credit for. And it's pretty amazing considering she's never been able to hear at all. Now, one of the things that I've always found most interesting dealing with Ashley, I don't say this to be condescending to our listeners, but if you ever lose one sense, the other senses actually become enhanced. So, for example, with Ashley, her sense of feel is at a level that I've never seen before. And the area that you'll notice it the most is she never misses her second shift off the start. Never. So, like when we're toe-to-toe with Jessica Patterson and some of the other top females, if you go back and you look at the video, she never, ever didn't get the whole shot.
Yeah.
And if you really watch that left foot, she really was. Now, some people will argue we were on a factory Honda. Jessica Patterson wasn't. Ashley was a little bit lighter than Jessica, and certainly that all factors in. But whenever we go out and we do assessments, I always do my starts with the drop of the gate through the first turn and over the first obstacle. We don't just do starts. We always put a clock to them. Sometimes we'll do the start, first turn, second straightaway, third turn, little things like that, because there's an infinite amount of ways to get through that first turn. And what was so amazing is she would literally, if we did 40 starts, she would never have more than a tenth of a second difference over that first obstacle. She was that precise with that second shift.
That's impressive.
So she really was, because I live and die by just numbers alone. And no matter what you put out in front of her, you gave her the criteria that you were looking for. We go out and do 4, 5, 10 lap motos and say, look, please don't be more than a second deviation. Unless the obvious, she pushed the front end or stalled the bike, she'd give it to you like it was scripted out. So her sense of grabbing that second shift, and this is a real big pet peeve of mine, is the amount of people that don't know how to shift a dirt bike. You listen to it bouncing off the rev limiters, you watch the two strokes, they're just screaming, but they're not pulling. And that is a real bone of contention, especially for me. And I always try to teach this at my level 1 workshops, is know when to shift your damn dirt bike. I think everybody needs to grow up on 2 strokes, but then they also need to learn how to ride 2 strokes. They're a little more forgiving than the old, I grew up with a 78 RM80, and if you didn't keep it on the pipe, that thing was a dog. And, all the way up to my 125. So it was pretty crazy. But she's awesome to work with, and great people, great parents. And do you guys follow her on Instagram by chance?
I do not.
I did, and then I ended up getting a different Instagram, stuff like that. Never followed her back.
Gotcha.
But
she's still very active.
Okay,
She does some women's camps and stuff like that. So it's cool that she's still in the sport.
Yeah, so another thing that just popped into my head while we were talking about starts there. So after watching some of the older Gary Bailey videos, and I did a Gary Bailey class back when I was younger, he was really big on the heel shifting into second, and
McGrath style.
Yeah, and we don't really see that nowadays. And I guess what's your opinion on that, Rob? Why do you think we don't see the heel shifting on the starts anymore?
this is going to sound like a crazy answer, but I just don't think people practice starts enough.
Yeah.
You know, you get into that school of thought. If you go look at the MXGPs, look at the majority of the guys that start with 1 foot on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And yet if you see someone starting with 1 foot on the ground over here, people think you're a screwball, you know?
Right.
It's funny how things fall out of flavor and come back into flavor. I'm still intrigued that the butt patch fell out of popularity.
Yeah.
You know, with the
Or
exception
neck
of
braces.
Forkner and Pixie Sticks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the heel shift same way.
Okay, Justin, you got a question?
Hi, Coach Rob. This is Justin. Big fan.
Hey, brother.
Don't want to act like a fanboy, but I definitely anytime you're on a podcast or you're talking about something, I always try to listen. So I know that you probably talked
appreciate
about
it.
this a million different times and probably not going to tell us anything we don't already know, but I would just like to know what it was like dealing with AC as an amateur. You know, I spent a lot of time around the amateur nationals when he was, you know, going from 50s to 60s to 80s and eventually schoolboy class and stuff like that. And I just want to know what it was like dealing with all the hype and, you know, trying to basically disconnect all of that and just focus on the racing side of things, because we all know there's been so much pressure on Adam since he was basically on juniors, you know, and I just would like to know how you guys dealt with that through all those years, because there were so many different people coming at Adam about, you got to do this and you got to do this. And, you know, I know that that's not going to be an easy thing to separate all that and just focus on racing and training.
Yeah, I was really fortunate in that regards, because when Alan C., Adam's dad, when they had reached out to me, they were doing well. Obviously, they had the Team Green ride at the time, but they didn't have all the people in their ears with what to do off the bike, which made there wasn't a lot to undo. And the cool part about Adam, as I said earlier, at the time he was training with Zach Freeberg, Zach Commons, John Ames, and they were all at Waldo. You know, the four of them were training every day together.
Yep.
And they would bring Ronnie Tishner as a riding coach. And it was a real good, the camaraderie was really good. The thing that was interesting about Adam is we were able to kind of tighten up a few things. Like he had texture issues really bad, so fruits and vegetables just didn't cooperate with him very well. So the eating had its unique challenges. For those of you that know, I have my own supplement. Yeah, exactly. One of my products in my supplement line is called the Complete Greens, Complete Reds, and Complete Oranges. And all it is it's essentially fruits and vegetables that have been dried, ground up, and you can put them into your smoothies to try to get the nutrient value. That the genesis behind that was AC's inability to swallow fruits and vegetables. So
I have that
when you look at things
same
like that,
issue.
do you?
Yeah, you don't eat bananas either.
Oh, I'm terrible about it. I have never been good with fruits or veggies, and it's all a texture issue with me.
Me and this kid, when we were in California together, every
Absolutely.
time I'd eat bananas in the morning, he'd always make fun of me.
That was for a different reason.
absolutely.
Yeah, whatever, man.
So,
But what the cool part with AC is, when I had a chance to get him, you know, he had just come off of Cobras. He was obviously, you know, had signed a pretty good deal with Mitch and with Ryan Holiday and the guys at Cowie. But when it came to the training side of it, they were all ears. They were willing to do everything and anything. Ronnie Tishner had a lot of confidence. I got the opportunity with Adam because I had worked with Ian Treadle as well as Ashley Feilich for Ronnie Tishner. And then that germinated over to AC. And then there's a little bit of a history background. Alan C., I used to be a statistical analysis in the grocery industry, and Adam's grandfather was the CEO of the grocery store chain that I was doing statistical analysis for in college.
Interesting. What chain
And
was
so it was Gooding Supermarket.
it? Okay.
I have heard of that
Yep.
before.
Yeah.
Yep, Mr. Gooding came out of Ohio, came down to Florida, and Alan was managing one of our stores, and his dad was the CEO of the company. So when I got a call from Alan, it wasn't like we hadn't met before, but in all truthfulness, I knew his son rode, but I didn't really know at what level. And that's a conversation for another day, maybe, because I had really, really tried my hardest not to get into the sport of moto. Because like anything, if you get too close to it, you end up becoming jaded. And I didn't want that. I'm still one of the biggest fans of the sport to this day. And I pushed and pushed and pushed until I finally ended up signing a deal with Toyota with their Moving Forward program. And that's what pulled me into the sport. But your original question about working with Adam, here was the number one thing that I told Adam. you are already at the pinnacle. So we have to find fun and creative ways to keep you challenged. You take any of my other riders, like right now, Logan Best is at the top of my list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're one of the top 3 guys in the country, you've only got 1 or 2 guys that we have to checkmate. When you're 15th or 20th, you've got plenty of targets that you can chase. There's a lot of people that could be your motivation in the morning. And I used to say to Adam, what gets you out of bed in the morning? And so what we would do every year, even though it was unrealistic, it set the bar as high as we could. Our goal was to get his Super Mini into the top 20 fastest lap times for the week at Loretta's. Because it wasn't just winning Loretta's. That was kind of assumed that we were expected to do that. He worked hard enough to do it. No disrespect to anybody else. The only person we really had to beat was Cooper Webb. And Cooper was on the one.
Yeah, the 150.
You know, Cooper was on the 150F, so we had him on horsepower. Adam was lighter than Cooper, so we knew we had the whole shot. What we had to do was stay out of Cooper's way so he wouldn't clean us out in the corners. That was the only way that we could beat Cooper.
I've seen that plenty of
So-
times.
He would never do that. That's fake news.
I've seen that plenty of times.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the cleanest rider ever.
He's pretty
That would
clean.
never happen.
Well, yeah.
But when, if we bring Cooper into the fold, I think because of Cooper having to be the guy he was, always in the shadow, and we know that whole story with Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's made him one of the best tacticians on the track to this day.
100%.
And yeah, I don't think that at the end of the day that was a bad thing. I'm proud of him that he was able to persevere when AC was getting all the offers in the world. And again, we've all heard Cooper's conversation about that. But the thing that I said to Adam is, you've got to find a way to be faster than yourself. So the only way to set that bar was literally 1 lap at a time. And we just kept picking and picking and picking. And it was interesting when we started seeing the 250 lap times. It was incredible to see how he'd pick up a 1/10 of a second here, a 1/10 of a second there, when really nobody thought he could go any faster. And Adam's dad, Alan, I have the utmost respect for. He's a fantastic guy. He's very, very particular about do things right or don't waste your time. And I'm very big on pushing the accountability and responsibility element. So he and I got along well. I know a lot of people he rubs the wrong way, but I do respect what he was trying to do, the message he was trying to convey. And I enjoyed working with him the whole time. His mom, Adam's mom, Christy, his sister, Emily, very, very cool people. Not just because Adam was Adam, just you get them away from the racetrack. And they were just great people. Go on cruises, go to the beach, go to the movies, go bowling, hang out. They weren't this pretentious. They weren't obsessed with it as soon as we walked away from the track, which was very, very refreshing, as you can imagine.
I think one of the biggest reasons why people feel that way about Alan is because of, what was it? Was it Inside the Outdoors when they were following him around? I think it was in it wasn't his rookie season, maybe the 2015 season or whatever.
I think he still had the 292 on the bike.
So maybe that had to have been his rookie season. And they were just seeing that. And I think a lot of people were like, oh boy, here we go. We got another Tony Alessi on our hands. And if anybody knew
Sure.
the Cincerellos, they knew that wasn't the case. But just from an outsider's perspective, I think that's what people had thought. They were like, well, here we go. We got another super talented kid. He's the next big thing. And then his dad's going to be overbearing. Because we all know, we've all been around the sport long enough. We all know how moto dads are. They have a hard time letting go with any of the dads. Josh Grant's dad's the same way. He still goes to the races, does this, not anymore, but he was for a long time.
He's involved with the grandkids and stuff now.
And I think that people just saw that with Alan. They were like, well, he's just going to be another Tony Alessi. And that was just because people didn't know the Cincerellos. They didn't see what was actually going on at the amateur nationals and leading up to that point. He was just wanted the best out of Adam, and he knew what he could accomplish. And it wasn't like Tony, where Tony was he had his hands in everything.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, do you mind if I elaborate on that comment right there?
Of course.
The thing that I loved about Alan was Alan never put an expectation that he knew Adam couldn't obtain. I've never met Mr. Alessi before. I've never spoken to the Alessi brothers at all. To me, when I look back yes, I'm in the industry, but at the time I wasn't seeing the Alessis, in action at the track. I did have the privilege of seeing how Alan was. Alan didn't, just for illustration purposes, he didn't put a gap that was 5 seconds. He's like, Adam, I know we can get another half second in this lap. Here, here, and here. Little bit throttle control, land the backsides, don't clip the rear wheel. I know we can get a 1/10 on this lap. And I don't think people understood that. Alan, he set the bar of accountability, but it was very manageable expectations. And what I still don't understand is if you step back and you look at the success that Adam had, and if you stop and look at Alan's very incremental, this is what I know we can do, we'll set the bike up. Now, he put the burden on me. I need to make sure that Adam is in shape to do what, and I think most of the listeners know this, but nobody touched Adam C's bikes except Mitch Payton.
Yep.
His bikes were completely built from the ground up by Mitch. So when that showed up in Port Orange, the only person that worked on that bike was Alan C. And the reason why I say it that way is Alan knew what the bike was capable of, and they knew what they could do and what they could adjust to make that bike go where it needs to go, in the corners, in the braking bumps, and the rest stuff. And what Alan and I would always talk about is I needed to make sure, this is going to sound a little out of context based on what Adam's trajectory ended up going, but I used to say, and I still do to this day, if I'm working with an athlete that's on a 65, I want to make sure they're getting prepared for the 85. I'm not training them for a 65, because it's not if we're going to an 85, it's when.
Yep.
And at the time when we were on the Super Mini, I was trying to make sure that he was fit enough to handle a Mitch Payton built Super Mini, which is essentially a bullet. So it wasn't even like getting him ready for a 125. It was getting him ready for a Mitch built 85. And then as we did that, the suspension, there's always that fine line where this isn't just Adam or Coop or anybody else. It's a lot of times the moto dads, they want stiffer suspension, faster motors, not realizing that the fitness is lingering behind. So all the fast bike stiffer suspension does is beat the rider down quicker. Alan C was one of the most in-tune dads that said, are we in a position that we can take the bike to this next level? And he didn't try to declare that he knew physiology. He didn't debate nutrition. His question is, are we in a position that I can physiologically can I make a mechanical adjustment to the motorcycle based on Adam's physiological development? Now, to me as a physiologist, that's like music to my ears, because Alan never once blamed fitness for what Adam did or didn't do. Alan never blamed the bike for what Adam did or didn't do. Alan always held Adam to the accountability factor. Did you ride the bike to its potential? Did you give 100%? And if those two things happen, we're going to win. Now, some listeners may look at that as being arrogant, but I think the results are pretty solid. That wasn't an unrealistic expectation of AC as a rider and as a tactician and as a responsible athlete. Same thing with the ability to articulate his thoughts. I mean, the list goes on. And his mom was very, very instrumental as well, but just very quiet behind the scenes. And a lot of people don't realize his sister Emily was as well. She'd keep him laughing all the time. There's one of the reasons why Adam is so funny is because of his sister Emily. They just jab each other all the time. And I think that helps keep Adam pretty balanced.
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess I have a question here to keep, as long as we're on the AC train here.
Sure.
How did the conversation go, and how did it go when he was wanting to switch over to Alden's program? Was that an Adam decision? Was that an Alan decision? Was that a Kawasaki decision? I mean,
yeah, it was definitely a Kawasaki decision.
Okay.
And I don't mind being 100% transparent with it. I got a call from Alan and Christy. They called me both and said, hey, there's a good chance that we're going to have to go to, and just for the listeners in the background, Alden was working with Villapoto. Villapoto had started to rent Grant Langston's place, which is now called the Sandbox.
Yep.
He was renting that from Grant Langston. And I got a phone call from from Alan and Christy, and they said, look, we have been approached by Kawasaki, and we're being told that we have to go with Alden. We told them that we want to stick with you, but they're saying we have to go there. And I said, in the same tone of voice that I'm saying to the listeners tonight, I said to them, you have to go what's right for Adam, and I don't own a facility, and you have a chance to train with Ryan Villapoto. Mm-hmm. Now, the whole Alden Baker thing, whether or not the program's good or not, we could do it, and we could talk about it tonight if you want.
We can talk about it.
I'm interested to hear. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, we all have some thoughts on that
I'm not a
program
fan of
over
the
here.
whole Eldon Baker experiment.
Yeah, I've got my thoughts
Yeah.
too. But
As I'm
But-
sure
but
you
if I
have
put
your
my-
you have your thoughts that I know you haven't been necessarily quiet at keeping, because I've
I
heard
love
some
it.
of them on the old Cooksey show there for a while, which was awesome.
Sure. Well, and the idea here is it doesn't matter if I'm working with AC, Logan Best, Ian Treadle, the list goes on and on. The idea is no matter what I need to do to get them to the next level, I have to go that route. And the only thing that hurts me is I always treat my riders like they're my own kids. I'm going to make sure that they're healthy before I ask them to do something, because no matter how proficient these riders are, they're still our children first.
Yep.
Adam was Christy and Alan's son first. And I always say to the riders, I even say to the new parents that I meet, I will never ask your son or daughter to do something at the expense of their health, whether that means riding with a concussion, riding with an aggravated itis, tendonitis of the knee or something like that. Because there's a saying in the physiology world that if you don't let the first injury recover, the second one only happens quicker and it's usually more severe. So when you go back to the phone call with Adam and going to work with Alden and Villapoto, I'm like, check this out. You've got this 3.5 minute outdoor track. You get to chase one of the fastest riders in history. You get to have your own facility. And what do I have to offer you? I can go to Waldo with you. I can go to various tracks, but I can't put you in that environment. And I said, when you can get a chance to go chase Villapoto around, at that time he was going up to the goat farm and was doing some fun stuff with Ivan Tedesco and those guys up there. That's taking Adam's riding to another level. It's getting another level of knowledge. Yes, I can share with him what I've learned through various riders, but talking about the Cliff Note version, when Villapoto is giving you his insight and all the people that have guided him on the West Coast, you put that on a very, very young AC, and I just thought it was the best move for him ever. I miss him. I miss his parents. I mean, his dad and I talk more than I talk with Adam or anything like that. And his sister and I are on Instagram communicating just because I still have her at the age of being 13, 14 years old, but she's up in Jacksonville in school.
Yep.
So we forget that the clock keeps ticking, but great family. But no, I had to embrace that. Here's the thing that I can sleep really good at night. I knew that when Alan and Christy made that decision, it was for the right move for Adam. And I knew that I was handing Adam off to whomever as strong and flexible and mentally capable. Now the next chapter was to be seen. And obviously it didn't go too well, but I could only wish the best for him. And, I'm glad he's gotten to where he's at. I know it's been a bumpy road, but they were one of the finest families to ever work for sure.
That's awesome. Now, I know we're going down memory lane here, and I know we were going to talk some modern stuff, and we'll get to that too. How does the Dunge thing come about?
Back in the early, I don't remember what year it was, Jeremy Martin and Alex Martin's dad, John, was starting a team out of the Millville track.
Okay.
And they had Spencer Dowley, they had Alex, and they had Jeremy. And the Martin brothers had hit me up and asked if I would start working with them. And so we did. And I'm going to shorten up the conversation. We did that program for a couple of years together. And I always stayed in good terms and communications with Spencer Dowley. Well, Spencer Dowley went on to become Ryan Dunge's best man in his wedding.
Okay.
And so Spencer was training with me here in Orlando, and Dunge had just signed his Suzuki deal. And of course, everyone knows the story. Nobody knew who Dunge was, but I didn't really know of him. I didn't and am not enamored by anybody's last name. But Spencer called me and said, "Hey, Rob, my buddy Ryan is flying into Orlando. He's going to start training at James Stewart's place. You want to go to dinner?" Sure. Spencer and I are buds. And so I had two little boys, and anybody that rides moto, they just think it's cool to hang around with them. They can't differentiate between RC and, my local fast guy. So they bring their little cast iron guys to the dinner. So it's myself, my ex-wife, my two boys, Spencer and Dunge. And we're just sitting at the table, just having dinner. I'm just trying to make small talk. And didn't know Dungy from anybody, to be honest with you. And so just making small chat with Dunge, and he's a relatively quiet guy, but not arrogant, not cocky, but just relatively quiet. And I was making small talk with him, and I just said, "Hey, Brian," I said, "Congrats on your Suzuki deal." I said, what is your goal? What do you want to do in the sport? And he goes, "I just want to beat every record that RC ever established." And he didn't laugh, and he wasn't being condescending. He was just kind of matter of fact, very Dungy-ish,
Bold move.
Now you got to remember, yeah,
I would have been
that's
kind of
exactly
like
right.
blown
But remember,
back. Just like,
well, my thing was I didn't know him from Adam. It's just like the local guy telling me he wants to be faster than Villapoto. Okay, that's cool. Everybody wants to be the next RC and probably thinks they are until the rubber hits the road. So that dinner went on. Dungy goes out, trains with Stewart for however long it was until he stuck that wheel in on Stewart at the U.S. Open. And then
I remember
Mr.
that.
Stewart had all of Dungy's stuff sitting at the front gate for him when he showed up on Monday morning. And he was
there for that.
Yeah, he was no longer welcome at Stewart's
I
compound.
never knew that was the reason why, though. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yep. Literally, what the Stewarts like to do is they like to always have people there that James can use and abuse. And then when Ryan stuck that wheel in on him, that was it. Mr. Stewart had enough, and literally his stuff was sitting at the front gate that next morning when they got back from the West Coast.
That sounds really familiar with these older riders, because I've heard several things of Carmichael being the same way. Of like, you were cool to come ride at my place and
Until
like
you started
use
beating
you
me
as
kind
a
of thing.
cone basically until you start throwing it in on me or do something I don't like, and then boom, you're gone and we're on to the next one.
I think Langston used to do that with people too.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, that's
Yep.
interesting. 'cause
No,
it-
absolutely.
Interesting.
So anyway,
Well, and
continue.
so, yep. So what ended up happening there was Dunge left, and he got a chance to go up to the goat farm, and he had been up there. I don't know how long he was there, and then I got a phone call from Spencer, and he goes, "Hey, I was with dinner with Dunge yesterday, and he's got some questions about some fatigue issues and some things like that. And would you be willing to talk to him?" I said, "Absolutely." So we did several interviews together, had him send some heart rate. He let me log into his heart rate data and just kind of gave him my feedback on it. Not because it was Dunge, just because this is going to sound really awkward. Spencer Daly and I go way back, and Spencer has always been a hard worker, and unfortunately he had some unforeseen injuries that kept his career from going very far. But it didn't matter if I was talking to Dungy or Trey Kennard or Stewart or anybody else. If somebody calls and asks a question, I don't really care who the person is on the other end. I just want to get into the meat of the data that you're asking about. And that's what Dunge was really cool about. So he let me look at some data. I gave him my feedback. We looked at some food logs, gave him some feedback, and we just kind of let it germinate for a while. And then he hit me up, I guess it was around October, November. He called me up, said, "Hey, I really think I want to start doing some work together." And we talked. So I drove up to Tallahassee, spent a couple days with him. We kind of discussed what it would take, given his race schedule and all of that. And boom, starting at Christmas, we were together. And I take that back. We actually got together right early in November, because I remember we trained through Thanksgiving, trained through Christmas, and then, of course, A1. And it was an interesting time because he had just signed with KTM, and that KTM is an absolute stink bug in the whoops.
Oh, yeah.
But yet he just came off of an RM that turns like a unicycle. So it was interesting because he has a new team, new bike. Roger had just moved to KTM, so there was a lot of negative publicity. We all heard it. Oh my goodness, Roger just put a nail in his coffin. It'll be the end of his career. Dungy just jumped off the end of a cliff. We heard all the negative chatter.
The air
So,
shock going flat.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun with it, and we had a good run at Supercross together and stuff like that. And then some of the pieces behind the scenes started to change. A couple people got in Ryan's ear, things that caused him and I not to see eye to eye on things, on the methodology. And I was totally cool with that. And then he just said, "Hey, I got to move on to other things." And I said, "No problem. Big handshake. Best of luck to you and Lindsay." And, we still text, "Hello, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's," kind of a thing. No hard feelings whatsoever. Still think the world of both of them. It's just exactly the same way AC needed to move on, same way that, Ryan needed to move on. And I say this very, very humbly. our supply channel is very filled, and we have a very long waiting list. And I say that very humbly. So what we have done as a company is we have opted not to work with the pros anymore, for a ton of different reasons. But for the most part is, once these guys get to a certain point, all it takes is one person getting in their ear. You could have 12 years of quantified statistics. You can show the methodology. You can show the incremental improvements. But as soon as someone gets in their ear and puts a shadow of doubt, and I hate to say it this way because I love all the existing pros that are out there, past and present, but they're very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? They can be persuaded very easily. They can be
I have a word.
put into a mode of...
I have a word.
Say that again?
I have a word.
Let's see that. Let's hear that
Let's hear
word,
it.
buddy.
Well,
What
it's
is
not
it?
a bad word. I think that a lot of the pros nowadays are a little soft. I just do.
That's it. We were all that build
No,
up.
man,
for
no,
All that
I'm not going to be
build up for
rude.
soft.
I'm not going to be rude
Wow.
with Coach Robb on the phone. I just think a lot of them are soft. I really do.
Well, the thing that I have to question is, if I go back to 78 when I first started riding, the only book of fitness that was out there was by Brad Lackey. And I read that thing like it was a Bible. You look at the advent of the heart rate monitors and all the information that we have, we can no longer plead ignorance. And when you look at the proliferation of adrenal fatigue, Epstein-Barr, just all these fatigue issues associated with relatively young riders. And yet, when you show the evidence on the patterns on how it happens and you give a methodology that doesn't go down the same path, we get met with resistance because mine's not flavorful, mine's not, I guess, volatile, mine's not aggressive. Trust me, when your body is showing it's ready to fire on all 8 cylinders, I've got plenty of workouts that'll improve your lactate tolerance, your anaerobic threshold, your sprint speed, your endurance, your strength to weight ratios, your VO2. Whatever physiological nugget you want to get into, I can definitely help you improve it. But I always say it this way. If you look at how absolute we are with our hour meter, if that thing has 10 hours on it, we're like, boop, top end. And then if you don't change the top end, and then you're surprised that the motor blows, people are like, well, you're an idiot. You have 44 hours on your top end. When did you think it was going to let go? You got 100 hours on your meter and you haven't rebuilt the bottom end. You just keep throwing bold new graphics on it. And yet people, but yet when you deal with the human physiology and you explain to them, look, here's signs of adrenal fatigue, and they're pretty obvious: suppressed appetite, night sweats, no sex drive, craving simple sugars, whatever all these external signs. And people go, oh, you just think I'm a pansy, especially the moto dads, suck it up, buttercup, let's go. And I'm like, well, it's like yelling at an hour meter that the motor just needs to suck it up and get tough. And so when you push back on these athletes that are making a lot of money, or unfortunately, a lot of the guys today aren't making a lot of money, their egos, they get fed on social media, 60, 70, 80,000 followers, 100,000 followers. They think that they know everything. And I'm not in a position, I don't have the patience to babysit stupidity.
Yep, that's
And
exactly
I
where
don't
was
say
going.
that I don't say it in a derogatory state. It's like, if I can show you the numbers, if I can show you your hour meter, and then I'm a mechanic and you're telling me you're just going to make the bike push through it because it's so absolute and mechanical, you would laugh at me and call me an idiot. The motor is tired. Everything about the bike is tired. But yet, if a mechanic doesn't rebuild it, the bike implodes, no one is really surprised. But you show an athlete the path you're on, you show them with clarity what's the catalyst behind it, and they argue with you. And I'm like, I'm fucking out, dude. I'm out. Because I'm not here to beg you to become a millionaire. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if the listeners really understand. A 250 program is a $50,000 a night win for some contracts.
Yep.
That's a $500,000 end of year bonus. 10 races, that's 50 grand, 500. I mean, and you want to argue with me when you have no appetite, your sleep scores suck, you have no sleep cycles, you have no deep sleep. And I'm telling you, you got to pull back today. And you're like, oh, you just think I'm a pansy, or you don't know what you're doing. Don't you know I got a race next week? Well, no shit, Sherlock. I've seen the race schedule. I know when you're racing.
Yep.
I'm not here to try to be argumentative. I'm trying to freaking help you.
Yep.
It's crazy to me.
It's just like
why
nobody can take criticism nowadays.
That's
I
what the
feel.
man friends are there for. That's
Yeah.
why everybody has a man friend
Amen.
to pad their ego.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've told you this the last time we talked, and I'll tell it to you again, is that by just listening to what you say in all these podcasts has helped me tremendously. And I'll give you a prime example of something I've only realized since our last conversation of you talking about having the stressed bike and not realizing it. So in my younger years, when I was working out, so say early 20s, I was working a job where, yeah, there was stress, but not a lot. I was coming home.
Sure.
I didn't have a family or anything, and I could go do a 3-hour workout and then turn around and come home and have a little something to eat and then go run 4 miles after that or ride my dirt bike or whatever and do morning cardio and all of this crazy stuff like that. Where now I'm into my early 30s, and if I do a day like that, I'm dying. I'm literally dying, and it's been a bit of a, I don't know what the hell to do with it, because
Humbling.
yeah, because it's like I'm one of those people of like, oh man, you're just being a bitch. Like, stop being a bitch. Just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
But then when I wear my Polar watch, which with the industry I'm in, I can't wear it all the time because I don't want to ruin this, $300 watch or whatever. But it's
Sure.
like, for example, the other night I usually work out, say 4:00 in the afternoon after I pick my daughter up after my daughter gets home from school. So I put the watch on, I work out. My workouts, I'll burn, say, 500 to 700 calories usually. I'll go maybe an hour and a half at most, and it's nothing drastically hard. I have a home gym, so it's nothing crazy, right? Then
Yep.
I wore it all night after that. So I wore it from, say, 4:00 in the afternoon until I got done, because I always work a little bit of a night shift since my shop's right at my house too, until I was done with that. And by the time I went to bed at 11 o'clock, just in that, say, 7-hour span, I had burned 2,500 calories according to that watch. And I don't know how many steps or whatever, but I just basically looked at the calorie count and went, holy crap, I just burned what they said was a whole day calorie count in 7 hours of the evening. That's not counting since I've been up since 5 a.m., So
Right. Yep.
I'm doing all that, and I'm like, it's no wonder that my body cannot take doing a 3-hour workout and an hour of cardio in the morning and ride after I come home from working out and all this stuff like that, because the amount, and that's not even the tangible stuff. That's the tangible stuff, not the non-tangible, like the stress of, I have a 6-year-old, I have a family, I own my own business that's in its infancy. And so, there's some days you're doing great and some days you're not, so you add all
That's
those
right.
factors into, like you say, the body that you're stressing, and then you're trying to, on top of that, throw a 3-hour workout, ride for 45 minutes, whatever else. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. And now that I realize that, and I can adjust the workouts accordingly, where it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm doing a workout. I'm not lifting quite as much as I was, especially in the weight department. I'm not going as hard on cardio. I'm not doing, 6-minute miles for 3 or 4 miles in a row type deal. It's like I'm basically to the point where I can walk on an incline, get my heart rate in the area it needs to be, which is low, long and slow, and, go that way from it. And boom, I know that it's working the body in a way it needs to be worked, and yet I can still sustain a normal life beyond that type deal. So yeah, the people that are listening to you that don't see what you're saying, or the people that are working with you that don't see what you're saying about this stuff, they've got their head in the sand.
I appreciate everything that you're saying there. Now take it 10,000 foot further. Yes, you could go harder, but then it takes you 4 days to recover from 1 day's workout. You get on the incline, you keep the intensity low. What does that allow you to do? Improve your consistency. What's the only two things that'll slow you down? An injury or an illness.
Mm-hmm.
What suppresses an immune system? Excessive stress. And it sounds a little bit rhetorical, but I don't mean for it to. You kind of threw a number on. I hope the listeners will grab a piece of paper. When you said you burnt 2,500 calories, was that for the day or just the workout?
No, that was literally
Like
from, say, 4:00 in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night. Now, granted, so that was, I worked out for, say, hour and a half, which burns, say, 500 to 700 calories roughly, depending upon what I'm doing. I then have, homework with the kiddo. I'm doing some light computer work. Maybe we're playing some video games together. I'm having dinner in there, so just light moving around the house type deal. And then I come back out and I put in a couple more hours in the shop. Now, mind you, my job as a powder coater, I'm on my feet, I'm walking around, I'm carrying parts. Some of them are light, some of them are heavy. I'm pushing racks around, that kind of stuff. So I'm not like sitting at a desk working. I'm on the move. So that's a little bit different than, say, a normal person that works a desk job. But still, it amazed me that in 7 hours in the evening, with probably at least a couple of hours there where I really not doing much. I'm sitting, I'm watching TV with the kid, we're doing homework, that kind of stuff. Like, I burn 2,500 calories according to my watch. And I use a Polar Vantage M. Is that what we got,
Yep.
Cole? Yeah,
Yep.
Polar Vantage M. So it's not like it's a super low quality watch that might be giving me some way out of proportion number there. You know, it should be somewhat in the ballpark, I would assume.
Very much so. Very much so. But here's where I want the listeners to grab a piece of paper. So from 4 to 11 p.m., you burnt 2,500 calories.
Yep.
There's 75 calories in an extra large egg. So you would need to eat 33 eggs before you go to bed just to break even on the calorie burn rate.
Yeah.
Now, we're not getting into high-quality fats that feeds the adrenal. We're not getting into enough amino acids to rebuild the muscles. We're not talking about enough complex carbohydrates to replenish depleted glycogen. That's all above the whole pay grade of what we're talking about. So for the listeners that don't understand where stress is coming from, think about it. And for those of you that have heard me on my own podcast, I preach this every time. There's 4 quadrants of life that we live in, and we're all in it. It's either the quadrant of personal, professional. For the kids that are listening, it would be academic, financial, and athletic. No matter what you do on a daily basis, even if you don't exercise, you're still negatively affecting the element of health and wellness. Now, the key is, and I've given this illustration before, but maybe for some of the new listeners, draw a straight line on your piece of paper and put a little triangle on the bottom of it. On top of that line to the left, draw a big box and break it into 4 quadrants. And that's where I want you to put personal, professional, financial, and athletic. And then above that box, just write the word stress, because those are all the categories that the listeners are dealing with on an hourly basis. Now, on the other side of that line, write one big box and divide it into 2 components and put food and sleep in there. And this is literally the correct balance between training and absorbing what you're doing, and training and falling into that line of overdoing it. Because look at your illustration. The only thing that can offset stress in our life is food and sleep. That's it. There's nothing else that's going to do it for you. You can't deal with more than 100% stress. So yeah, you could be very, very busy at work. You get a really big order. Sure, the professional may commandeer a little bit of your time. Maybe you didn't get to work out as much as you wanted to today, but the sum total of that box is still going to be 100% stress. Now your daughter's ill. So now the interpersonal takes a little bit more of your time. You just got a big tax liability. It's going to take more of your time, but it still never adds up to more than 100%. But as that scale gets out of balance, we don't eat, we don't sleep, and then when you don't eat, your sleep gets negatively affected. Now you've started an endless loop that smokes the adrenals. The adrenals get smoked. Then you start having inadequate sleep. Now your immune system is suppressed. Now you don't get enough sleep, so the tendons, the ligaments, and muscles don't get stronger, and you have a suppressed immune system. Now you're doubly fucked. You don't stand a snowball's chance. You're done.
Yep.
But you got a guy yelling at you. You've got a hired trainer. You've got a facility trainer. You've got a team trainer. You got to suck it up. You got to go. Let's go. Suck it up. But really? That's like yelling at the mechanic. They're all sitting in a huddle yelling at the motorcycle, telling the motorcycle to suck it up. That's how absurd the example is.
Yep.
But if it's mechanical, everybody buys it. If it's physiological, you're not tough enough. Until we get the diagnosis that's plagued. I could give you 15 people off the top of my head that didn't get to fulfill their second-year contract because Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, whatever the disease is. And Justin may have heard me say this previously, so I apologize. It's redundant. Once a cell becomes out of balance, but you get your blood work done and you're out of your B6, B12, and iron is out of range. It's low. Well, that cell is now at what we call a state of imbalance. Well, once that cell stays in that, then that cell starts to negatively affect the makeup of the tissue, because cells make up tissue. Tissues make up an organ makes up a system, a series of systems makes up the body. So when do we finally wake up? When we get a diagnosis of a disease. We've got some blood-borne disease. We have Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue. I know some of those are nebulous. Some people will argue that they're completely separate. Some will say they're identical. That's not what the four of us are talking about tonight. What we're saying is, why do we wait until the wheels completely come off the bus? Oh, that's right, because this upside-down asinine system we have has 100 other kids right in the hopper. So as soon as you roach this kid, and this is what pisses me off about these facilities and these so-called trainers, as soon as these trainers, and I can give you 5 top pros that are now in the quote-unquote human performance trainer business that have absolutely ruined some of our top talent.
All of MTF.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Sorry, I was just waiting to say
that again.
All of MTF.
Say it again.
All of MTF.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we triggered Rob there a little bit.
I like it.
Well, the crazy part about it is the results don't lie. It isn't, as they say, it isn't bragging if you can back it up. Well, it isn't hearsay if you get 5 people that would come clean and show their blood and show their training logs and show the lack of structure and show the idiocracy that's behind it, until we do what? Until we roach these kids' adrenals, we shorten their professional career, we stuff them in a helmet when their head's swollen from a concussion and act like it didn't happen. It's just insane to me.
I think you just described all of TLD KTM.
Yeah. The last few years.
And the lack of results there, right there.
100%. Well, the number one that jumps to my mind when we talk about MTF would be Jordan Smith and how he can't stay healthy.
Yeah. Well, Tristan Charbonneau was the same way.
Yeah.
Why his GP experience didn't go right, and he went on a podcast recently and talked all about that. But yeah, Smitty is definitely a prime example.
And I think another example, after watching some of the Verb video that just dropped recently of Pierce Brown at the track and how they're ripping him a new ass.
Yeah, his mechanic.
He's just getting back on the bike.
I being a former mechanic myself, I appreciate what his mechanic was saying to him, because people don't realize the bond that is between a mechanic and a rider, especially at that level. But I didn't really like the way his mechanic was speaking to him, in the sense that he was just berating him. And I don't know if he was just doing that for because there was like a 15-minute video and they wanted to do it, make it a little bit more edgy.
Well, even in that video, he dumps the front end.
Yeah,
all this
and
pressure
Pierce
on
is going,
him,
I can't go any faster.
Yeah, I mean, he's just getting back on the bike for how many times he'd been riding?
I think he'd been riding only a month, but he was even telling his mechanic, and I don't know his mechanic's name, but he was like, dude, I can't go any faster. I don't know what to do. And his mechanic was saying it the right words, but he was saying it the wrong way. And it's like you said, he crashed right after that. And it's because his mechanic got in his head, and he was like, oh crap, like I got to push it a little bit harder. The track was slick, the whoops were cut, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I just feel like it can be approached a much differently way for a kid that's 18, 19 years old who is finding a place in life in general, let alone on a motocross bike.
Which I don't know if any of, and this is more for you, Travis, because you're such a critic of him, but I don't know if any of you guys saw Savacci's recent post on talking about the mental side of things and everything that has gone on with him.
I saw some people make some comments on that, which I don't necessarily disagree with.
Well, I didn't see the comments. I just saw his post, and he was talking about it. And being a big Savacci fan and stuff, he just basically said, he's like, hey, I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. And I think that if you read between the lines of what he was saying, it goes back further than just the last couple of years. It goes back to his amateur days of being at MTF and just constantly getting beat down.
I saw somebody throw out there that he might be, popping some things that you're not supposed to be popping.
Oh, that stuff.
And they were like, "Oh, that would explain some stuff here."
That was just random people on Instagram commenting that.
Yeah, I mean,
my point is that it just you can kill these kids just too quick. Like, you're putting too much stress on a lot of these kids.
Yeah, and the reason I said that for like the TLD thing and why I'm worried about Pierce Brown is because if all those guys are getting that similar treatment like that, and that's how the team structure is over there. Look at Sean Cantrell, kid with a ton of talent.
Drake. Look at Derek Drake. Mitch Falk.
Obviously, there's something going on over there that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do, and I don't know if it's if it's Keefe. I don't know if it's the people that work with TLD is all the well, obviously the mechanics are hard on their riders and stuff, but I don't think it's coming from Troy himself. But
no, Troy's way too laid back for that.
But it's coming from somewhere, and you can't deny
there's some kind of structure, some kind of thing that they're following that has come down from above that I believe is just not working for those guys.
I mean, but do we go back all the way on this to the parents of these kids? Because I mean, who's putting these kids in the facilities? The fucking parents, okay?
Yeah.
So
That's right.
and then the parents obviously, I mean, half of them, we all know, these kids live in the damn motorhome by themselves at these facilities.
They have no social skills. They don't know how.
They don't have social skills. They don't have parents around to keep an eye on them. So these parents don't really know that their kids are getting burned. They're just like, oh yeah, my kid's gonna be there, and he's gonna be the next Ricky Carmichael.
Well, and then throw them into a team and throw them into a spotlight where they have to have social skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always found funny about when I was working with different riders at GPF compared to, and you would do the MTF GPF thing, and I always said this MTF. This was back when the whole Red Bull thing started to get built, like when Savacci, a little bit after Davey moved away, but it was Savacci and Barsha and everybody, and Martin,
the Red Bull Jams
and Scuba and all that.
Who was the one kid that dropped off the map?
Nico Leocata.
No, not Leocata. He literally dropped off.
Yeah,
the
he
map,
literally. But no, the
Kyle Engel.
Kyle Engel. But when I would be always with guys at GPF, I would always say that GPF was more about the laid back, like,
yes.
And this is nothing against Ray and Terry Woods and Josh, because they definitely ran a tight ship, but it was more of the privateers, because you had the Sewells, you had Chad Charbonneau, which Chad's dad owned the property, both of them, but the Charbonneaus, you had Kelly Smith, you had all these different guys.
Well, your guy Mitch Harrison.
Yeah. And MTF was more, well, this is just a business. Like, we don't really care what your feelings are.
Yeah.
And you would see the difference is the GPF guys would be more calm, and then you'd go to like Minios, for example, when I was helping out Eric Sink, and the GPF guys, other than Barsha, stomped the MTF guys. Like everybody. Pretty much, if you looked at the results that year, they stomped everybody.
Yeah. It's just crazy going down there, too, because I've been fortunate enough to go down and ride at GPF just for, your South trips and stuff like that. It's literally a fence line. But as soon as you step over that fence line, the vibe changes.
There would be guys, though, but they were so back then, they were so just, I want to call them tight asses, that if you were a GPF guy and you got caught, like when they were doing their camps before Minios and all these nationals, if a GPF person rode over to MTF and they got caught, that like Colleen would throw a fit. She'd freak out. And I don't know, and I'm not around the amateur scene anymore, so, Coach could talk a little bit more about this, but like, I don't know if it's with these facilities, if bringing in different guys, because a lot of these facilities, they have people that don't necessarily have a racing background, and they don't know what it's like to go through the struggle. And I've seen that a lot of these facilities now are bringing in guys that have racing backgrounds to coach these kids, whereas back in the day it was more, hey, we're just bringing in whoever we can throw money at. Because MTF, other than little Brian Johnson, there was all those guys there had nothing to do with racing. And I don't know if these facilities are bringing in guys that actually know what they're talking about now. So I don't know. I feel like the amateur scene is a lot different, has changed a lot in the last 10 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well, Rob's in it, so let's.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
let's see what he
kind of.
thinks
I
about
think
that.
that's where he was kind of roping around and
know better
circling
than
back
anybody.
into. But
Well, you bring up a lot of really good points there. And, obviously I haven't had a chance to meet each one of you guys individually, so not knowing all your backgrounds as well as I should. The thing that you just mentioned is what I'm so adamant about is the coach accountability. And whatever you want to put in the word coach, riding coach, facility coach, human performance coach, whatever that umbrella generic term looks like these days, I'm very, very adamant. We are in the process of getting ready to roll out a Moto E coaching certification program for this exact reason. Because if I can serve a rider with blood work done every 3 months that's getting looked at and reviewed by a true physician that's looking at the health and wellness and performance of an athlete, if I can get you to wear the heart rate monitor and I can show you that finite balance between volume and intensity, because the definition of overtraining is not how much you do, it's how much you absorb. And yeah, you can go to a facility and they can smoke your ass and have you put on 30 hours a week on the bike. That doesn't mean it's going to make you faster. If you take it out of context of riding moto and you put it in a running realm, We have some elite runners that we work with that are running, we're not on world record pace like a 202, 203 world record pace, but we've got some guys running 215s, 218s. That's just over a 4-minute mile for a marathon.
Yeah, the hell with that. I'll tell you right now, as a marathon runner, the hell with that.
But think about it. They don't go out every day and run intervals. They don't go out every day and run a marathon. They don't go out every day and go anaerobic threshold and then wonder why they're flat. This is the only sport that completely disrespects human physiology and disrespects human performance, what we refer to as periodization. These athletes are expected to be fast 52 weeks out of the year. It's asinine. Now, going back to what you just said about, is there any intelligence coming in? No, there's not. We were told there was a large umbrella of conversation that was going on, and I was very vocal of the fact that this group of riders was getting overworked. And I'm going to paraphrase it just for the sake of time, but the thing that I thought was so interesting is I get a conversation going, I show them the quantified information. I don't wear the fucking watch. You do. I can't fib the numbers. When I'm nothing against Polar, I use Garmin exclusively because of how useful the Garmin dashboard is. Everybody logs in. We're all looking at the same report. You bounce that against the blood work from the physicians. I didn't give the blood. It's your blood. I didn't give the interpretation of the data. The physician did. He or she doesn't have any vested interest in telling you that your blood work's in disarray if it isn't. But you look at the data, like we said earlier tonight's show. Your sleep cycles, you're not getting any. You should have 3 to 5, you're getting none. You should have close to 2 hours of deep sleep. You're getting 5 minutes. Your awake time should be close to 0. You're up an hour and a half. All right, so that's not enough. Then we look at your performance data, your what we call critical speed and threshold of fatigue. Those numbers are going in the negative. We look at your strength to weight ratios. We look at your VO2 max numbers. They're going backwards. But yet you're telling, this is where I was going with the original statement. I was physically told on the phone to stop talking. I talk too much. When the whole genesis for the conversation was this athlete is not, this group of athletes are not performing up to par. What's going on? And of course, just like you guys have heard all the time, whenever the rider is sucking on the track, it's always the mechanic's fault and the trainer.
Oh, trust me, I got yelled
at a lot. The motorcycle, that's right. That rider can go out and put that bike on the ground 27 times, no problem. If that bike doesn't run to the finish line, mechanic, terminated. Don't know what you're doing. You're an idiot. Well, when the bike doesn't break and the athlete doesn't win, who's the next person to blame?
The trainer.
Yeah.
So I have no problem, like you said earlier, I've got thick skin. I have no problem having an adult conversation on things that we don't agree upon. As long as you're going to stay intelligent about it, let's talk. I'm always willing to listen. I'm always willing to learn. But when you've got quantified data that you've captured, blood work, heart rate data, food logs, performance data, testing results, and you lay the numbers out, and I do a lot of consulting with entrepreneurs, and I always say, at the end of the day, you have to be truthful with a P&L statement. Well, at the end of the day, you've got to look at the hard numbers and ask yourself, what have you put in, where are we at currently, and what's happened in the middle? Well, that's when people go, oh, you talk too much. Well, I'm just trying to answer your frustration. Lower VO2 max, slower sprint speeds, high levels of fatigue, irritability, suppressed appetite. The list goes on. That's what you called us to do. That's why we do a lot of analytical analysis for a lot of people behind the scenes, not because I'm trying to judge their trainer. I'm trying to show the athlete, particularly the parents, here's where Johnny is or isn't. Like you said earlier, if the parents don't do anything with it, my heart breaks for them because their kids are duped. There's nothing they're going to be able to do. They can't buy stiffer suspension and faster motor. The person that's riding it is already behind the 8 ball. But then when I say that, oh, you're on a soapbox because that's what you do for a living. Yeah, that's what I do, but I apologize. I don't know if it's Cole or Justin that was the mechanic, but that's like somebody saying, well, I can't believe you're telling me to check my air pressure and set my sag. You're just a mechanic. That's your soapbox.
You're so dumb. I don't know why you would tell me this. I only hired you to be my trainer, but why would you tell me about my body? It's stupid. I don't get it.
And this is where it goes back to what we said a little bit earlier. All it takes is for them to get good enough. And then, now let's be a little bit sarcastic but serious at the same time. If I've taken somebody from an 85 and I've worked them all the way into a factory rig, which I've had 14 of them total that have made it to a 250 factory team. The 6 or 7 years that we work to get there, they love the structure, they love the discipline, they love the results, until they get a nice fat contract and now they're too cool for school. They literally are, they're completely untrainable. So then you try to continue to encourage them to foam roll the stuff that it's what we call the non-sweating components of performance: sleep, food, diaphragmatic breathing, working the mental development side, trigger point therapy, staying hydrated, well-fed. That's easy, but yet they just simply don't want to do it anymore. Foam rolling, that's a waste of time. I don't care about my food. I've got my contract. I'm good.
Till
And
the
so when
contract
I
ends.
push the issue,
Till it ends.
yeah. So once I push the issue, now I'm jeopardizing little Johnny in the corner. So the dad, the agent, the team manager, fuck you, Rob. You're hurting my little guys. You're hurting our little rock star's feelings. You're telling him that he needs to do something he doesn't want to
That
do.
comes back to Justin's soft comment.
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him. What was that, Trav?
That comes back to Justin's comment about being soft.
Absolutely. But I'm not trying to be a horse's ass. To me, you're still the same kid you were on an 85. You're just parked out of a big rig getting a nice fat paycheck. That's cool. That's what you busted your ass to do. But what got you there? That's what I call the complacency syndrome. You know what to do, and you simply don't want to do it. And then when I try to hold you accountable, now you're in a position that you're like, nope, you're fired. Because as you guys said earlier, I've got a guy over here in the corner that's willing to be my man friend. Dude, have at it. Because if you think I'm going to sit at the track and hold your board and dote all over you and go play putt-putt golf and take you to In-N-Out Burger, you've got the wrong dude.
I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
There's just no way.
Oh, man.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. You know, you only trained me and got me to this point, and I've heard this in some motivational speeches on YouTube that I listen to occasionally, where guys are like, when you made it to the NFL, like, you're just getting started. Okay, you signed that factory deal, you're just getting started.
Yeah.
So, okay,
So
so
let me be a little bit of a dick. Let me be a little bit of a dick for just a moment.
you can be a lot of a dick on this show, Rob. No one listens to it, so say whatever you want. Doesn't fucking matter. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're all dicks to each other on here, so let her rip.
That's great.
Travis.
Well, think about it this way. Take anybody I've worked with in the past. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. Not anyone, but the Martin brothers, the Jordan Baileys, the ACs, the Ian Treadles, the Seth, all that goes with it. Okay, so I've got somebody like a Logan Best. His parents are phenomenal. He is probably one of the most polite young men that really wants to go far. Well, I don't know if he's going to sign with Mitch or if he's going to sign with Star or where he's going to go, but what's going to happen? No matter, and again, this isn't against the Best family. This isn't against Adam C's parents. This isn't against Jordan Bailey's parents. You're going to go ahead and you're going to ink a deal with an OEM.
Yep.
Each OEM has their team trainer. I'm out. And I tell that to Logan all the time. There's going to be a point where I'm going to get pushed out. And they're like, no. We love what we're doing. We're defending you. I understand. But you have to understand, at the end of that final putting the period in the signature, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I tell these guys, I know it right now. Logan Best, I will not have when he goes to a 250 program. But all I can do is say, look, I got you there to the best of my ability. You're ready. You're not overtrained. I'm always a phone call away. Now, I'm not calling out Logan Best or Jordan or Martin Brothers or anybody else. I do get phone calls after they sign with a program And if they get found out, they will get reprimanded, financially penalized, and possibly even terminated.
That's a stupid
Now, how
shit.
fucked up is that?
That's such bullshit, man.
It's like it's like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. But this is just the industry we're in, I guess you'd call it. It's just the moto industry to me
That's why
just
it's
makes
not growing.
0 sense.
That's why the moto industry isn't
But
growing.
think about
like
it this way. Think about it this way. You've got a rider that's being pigeonholed into a closed door meeting, being told what they're going to do. You have a rider saying, but I want to work with Robb Beams. I've worked with him my whole amateur career. And they will say, and I've been quoted this, don't ever mention his name again. He is not our guy. This guy is. And whatever this guy says, you're going to do.
Does that have a lot to do with like some orange and white and now red bikes?
Wow.
Rob, is that?
Wow, that was subtle.
Does this have a lot to do with that kind of
That was
stuff?
subtle, Travis. That was subtle.
I told you, no one listens to the show. We'll say whatever. Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Yeah,
Rob might be too
you
polite to
think-
say it. I'll fucking say it. I don't care. Okay.
Whatever, Cooksy.
But the problem that I run into is almost every single person that's run into that buzzsaw, the results are 99.9% consistent. And it's not about, oh, there's a championship here. No. I get it. I'm not naive. I've been around the sport a long time. What we need to step back and look at is what is the attrition rate against the success rate? And this is why I'm so adamant about coach accountability. If I roach somebody's adrenals, I feel that it's my responsibility as a company to give every dime back. Now, here's the caveat. There's no way that I can prove that. If I ask you to do a 90-minute bike ride and you do a 3-hour bike ride, I don't hold your hand. I don't live with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's where there's got to be, and we've got a couple methodologies that we have in place. We're almost ready to go live with it. We have some checks and balances in place where the individual will not be able to dupe the evaluation criteria. And I'll be happy to share it with you 3 off the air. But we have a system that's in place that absolutely cannot be cracked. Why do I do that? Because did you guys listen to Mitch Payton on Whiskey Throttle?
A little bit, yeah.
I was going to say, I listened to most of it. He's been on there twice, though, hasn't he?
I think so, yeah.
I would say I
Yeah,
listened
he did
to
a
at least
total of
one.
7 hours.
I would say I don't know that I've listened to all of both of them, but I know I made it through the first one and part of the second one. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, here's the key. Right now, I'm on a 22-year out of a 25-year business model. I'm 3 years from having it where I needed it to be. And this is so interesting that Mitch mentioned it. And it's right in line with what we're talking about this evening. Mitch was talking about when Ricky was on the pro circuit team and Mike Brown was on the team. And Ricky was just making small talk with Mitch. And Mitch said, how's it been with Brownie training with you? And Ricky said, I haven't seen Brownie in like 3 months. And so it was interesting because like Mitch said, kind of along the same example and thread of thought we're talking about, here he is paying a salary. They're in Florida, not in California. He can't babysit them. He can't hold their hands. He's paying them a salary, assuming they're doing their job. And then he calls Brownie up. Brownie's like, oh, yeah, I've been building a house and I've been doing landscaping work.
That's awesome.
So this methodology that we're creating and what we're putting in place is I'm going to be able to show to a team manager literally hour by hour whether or not the athlete is sleeping, eating, traveling, training. We have the methodology in place.
That's awesome.
And the idea here is, yes, I will put my money where my mouth is. If somebody signs up today and they're willing to go through the evaluation criteria and wear the evaluation materials and do the necessary work, I will make a financial commitment to give you every dime back you've ever paid us.
Mm-hmm.
And I will promise you, you will never, ever have your career shortened because of adrenal fatigue, Epstein-Barr, chronic illness, chronic injuries. Okay. But at the end of the day, the athletes are going to the athletes are going to have to agree to be accountable. And if they're not, then we don't have any reason to even have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Now take that to a team that has a so-called trainer that doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, that has no credentials to be doing what they're doing. And it
Rob,
drives me
you know
nuts.
I'm sending
And
you a text this week to ask who these trainers are off the air here.
I have a guess.
I got like
the one guy
I
wears
have ideas.
The one guy wears real weird skinny jeans. You know what I'm talking about?
but I'm gonna get this
Yeah.
information out of you this week here, Rob.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No worries.
But
But the funny part about it is I say this all the time. I have a 250F. I've read the manual. There's not a factory team that should hire me because I read the manual.
exactly.
But yet you get a guy that came out of a factory rig, and now he is a nutritionalist, a physiologist, kinesiologist, a biomechanicist.
Or the guy that
What
was
the
a
hell?
mid-pack
I mean, it's
privateer at
You
best.
talking about Seth Rarick right now?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Wow.
100%.
100%.
Wow. Okay.
That's who I was talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I kind of figured, but I didn't want to. I didn't really like.
There's several of those guys out there that it's like these dudes didn't even do anything.
Yeah,
in their
Rarick
career.
should just stick to the actual
No,
training.
no, you guys are wrong. No, you guys are wrong. They went to a weekend course and got ACE certified.
Hey,
You
Rarick-
forgot about the weekend online courses.
Rarick should just stick to the technique side of things because all that other stuff.
Or just talking to women.
yeah, just talking to women, moms. I don't know.
I mean, I ran like 3 marathons. I think I should qualify
Hey,
as a trainer.
Hey
also.
Cole, you're doing nationals this summer, so it looks like we're getting you on the Robb
I'm not
program.
Man,
You should be, hey, if you did 3 marathons, you should be running the Oregon project with Salzera there. I
Sure.
mean, come on. You and Alberto are tight.
Travis, right?
It's,
Cole's
it's
doing
the same
nationals.
asinine mindset.
Yeah.
no,
Oh, no.
I don't even know where to start. So
Cole, you're doing
a
nationals
little bit
this
of
summer.
a
We're gonna-
background on me, Rob. I grew up doing a little bit of racing.
A little bit.
A
of
little
racing.
bit.
I like how you just
Very
a little
modest.
bit.
I
Jesus.
really didn't race that much.
Got a
so
top 10 at Loretta's
we
in a
tried.
moto.
We tried doing the Loretta's thing out when I was on like 50s, 65s, and we'd go down to the regional, and I'd get dead last, get super nervous, and the parents were always like, "There's more to life than a motocross bike. It's the top 1% that
No
makes
way. I
it,"
could
and they
never
always
see
told
your
me
dad
that.
saying that.
What's that?
I could never see your dad saying that.
Yeah, but so my last hurrah was coming out of high school, and I gave it one last little shot and put some effort into it, and went down to Loretta's in the B class in 2013. And I came out of there 16th overall. I went 12, 26, 17, I think, something
You
like
got
that.
top 10 in that mud moto.
I was like one spot out.
Oh.
And I remember just being down there, and I went through the finish line. I was like, this dude right in front of me just pulled into the inspection lane. You know how they have it after the finish
Oh,
line?
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, where'd that come from? But anyway, Travis
monsoon
here is
race.
trying to push me into getting my pro card or something and stuff. So
Whoa,
that's
whoa,
where
whoa.
we're at
It's,
on
it's
that.
not just me. This is a team effort with
Yeah,
one of
this
our
is-
other buddies whose shop sponsors this show and stuff. So this is a real
Okay.
team effort that we're gonna.
Well, Cole's got a Sweet Dude gas coming, so
it's here. I just got a 450 gas. So
So basically what we're trying to do is get Cole to do a little bit of training here because Cole can ride. He's being very modest.
Then we're gonna vlog it.
but he actually is a very very smooth, very good rider.
when he's not trying to be Kenny.
Yeah, and so
what's that supposed to mean?
So anyway,
Nothing.
so we're trying to get him to go
Gotcha.
and get his pro card and at least do like a couple of the nationals or whatever. But he's very much fighting us on this.
We have a lot of local people too that do nationals that have no business doing nationals, and
Yeah.
Well, and two though, I also work in the industry too, Rob. So I'm kind of like in Cooksey's position, but I work for Tucker Power Sports rather than WPS. So same thing Chris does, but I'm with Tucker. So on the other side of it, I also think about I got to get up and go to work in the morning too. So
Dude, it's totally fine.
Sure.
It's just a couple of pro nationals.
Ugh.
It's totally
Dude,
cool.
well, then you got to travel around, do all the pro-ams.
hey man,
and-
just think the fact that if you get like one spot out of qualifying, how much shit you can talk to Matt.
Well, or I could do. I'll just name drop Austin Wagner. He's tight with the Richies over at Redbud, and he
He's
didn't
gonna
do
ride
any
Red
pro
Bud every day for a month.
He didn't do any pro-ams and just ended up with his pro license. So
Oh, that's not where you were going. Never mind.
Okay, so let's talk about some stuff that's going on right now.
Oh, some current stuff?
Some current stuff.
Sure.
So Rob, we'll let you choose. You want to talk Hunter Lawrence, Chase Sexton,
Whoa.
Eli Tomac, or
I want-
Austin Faulkner?
We gotta talk about
no.
Hammaker,
I
too.
want to talk
And-
Kenny's
Hammaker.
fitness level, and are
you don't-
things going to flare
You
up?
don't want to talk about Hammaker?
I don't know.
Yeah,
we
I
got
don't
all
wanna talk
kinds
about
of
those. Each
subjects.
one
Pick
of them-
one.
'Cause I wanna talk
Each one
about
of them has
Seth.
so much meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Here's where I want to start. I know I was giving you the option. Now I'm going back on that. Okay.
Dick.
Wow.
I wanna-
Wow.
That's okay.
Shut your mouth over there, you two. Rob's cool with it. You guys shut up, all right? I don't care what you think. Let's start with the most interesting thing that we all heard at, I believe it was the last race there, Orlando 2. Sexton drops 9 pounds mid-season.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, Coach, on your thoughts on this, because it shocked all of us to go, wait a minute, you're pinnacle
fit.
athlete, fit, and mid-season you're dropping 9 pounds?
And I thought he had misspoken.
So that was interesting. So what are your thoughts on that comment by
I made
Chase?
the Adderall diet joke because he's training with Stu. But,
Wow.
but yeah,
I apologize. I haven't seen that. Where was that quoted or stated?
Race Day Live.
yeah.
Yeah, but during the qualifying show, I think is when he said it. Did he say it during the night show when they talked to him?
No, I don't think it was brought up.
They had him
Okay.
on Race Day Live, and they're like, "Well, how are you feeling with your time off from the collarbone?" And he's like, "Well, I'm eager to get back. I actually dropped 9 pounds and just stuff like that."
Then
And
he
I-
was talking about like, because of the injury, eating and stuff, and then he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, Chase was already at like,
Yeah, I'm just thinking
thinner
you're
guy
coming
to
into
begin
your
with?
450 debut on a factory Honda, and then you get hurt and decide to drop more weight. And we were
Yeah.
just kind of all like, kind of shocked about that. So.
Was he referring to it like he lost weight because he hasn't been able to train and was injured, or like super buff, lost 9 pounds, ready to go race?
He
sounded
kind
like
of
he meant to
He kind of
Yeah.
talked like, "Oh, I'm leaner and even fitter than I was before," kind of thing.
Yeah, it definitely didn't sound like, oh man, like this caused me to drop some weight because.
but
I
he never
couldn't
said anything
do
about packing on muscle.
Yeah, anything of training to put keep muscle on or whatever. So
It's just a very interesting comment.
yeah,
Yeah, well, it's interesting on a couple different levels. And before I say this, for any of the listeners that have struggled with eating disorders, we do in our general fitness weight loss division, we do a lot with eating disorders, and I don't take them lightly, and I know that they're very difficult on people. But our sport really cultivates a manorexic type of a mindset, especially in the 250 class. Don't gain any weight, you won't get the whole shot. Don't gain any weight, don't get the whole shot. So you see a lot of these guys running calorically restricted because of this manorexia mindset. I don't see that being with Chase. I mean, he's very, very tall, very lanky. So I can't imagine that they would say on that factory 450, hey, you need to lose some weight. So now this is where we get back into, is it somebody getting in his ear and somebody's like, you need to lean out? And when you are looking at getting leaned out like that, and I was trying to remember, did he go down? Was it round 2? When did he go down in the sand? And
it
do
was,
it?
think
it was
it was
Houston
2,
too
yeah.
when he ate it and then broke his collarbone. Wasn't that what he did?
He didn't break the collarbone. Just a deep.
Shoulder.
contusion
That's
or
right. It was a
something.
deep,
shoulder. The
deep
whole
bruise in the
shoulder.
shoulder.
So.
Yep.
Deep bruise in the shoulder. So then when you start looking at that 9 pounds, if it was somebody that told me they were in preseason and they were like trying to drop body fat, 9 pounds, help me out on the date. Houston 2, approximate date of that, with us sitting here almost on March 1st.
January 19th, I think. It was a Tuesday.
Yeah. So,
January-
Yeah, they
would've
started
been like-
January 16th was the opener.
Yeah.
yeah,
so
the
what
19th.
must have been like the 19th or 20th? We'll call it. So.
Of January, right?
Yep.
So January to February, that's 4 weeks, and then to the end of February. So let's say that is a legitimate 6 weeks.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yep.
Yeah, 6 weeks, 9 pounds. That's real good synthetic HGH. Straight up.
Yes. Perfect. So.
Yeah.
Straight up.
See,
Yeah, synthetic HGH will cause you to drop body fat like nobody's other.
Interesting.
And synthetic HGH is very, very easy to get. It's probably one of the things that gets abused the most in like the places that promote high intensity interval training. I don't even like to say CrossFit because that's a little bit too generic, but any place that walks around saying, hey, look, if you do high intensity interval training, you're going to look ripped like him and her.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started on CrossFit because we can go
Yeah.
back and forth on that. Coming from a lifting background here about how that whole thing works, I'm very not on board with that.
Well, what was so crazy is in our offices, we pick up a lot of the crumbs. It doesn't matter if it's Superset, Super Slow, Insanity, P90X, all this bullshit fad stuff. I cannot tell you, if I took a sample of 100 people that came in, I would say 90% of them that came from the CrossFit high intent, every single one of them were on synthetic HGH. I'm talking soccer moms, CEOs.
Shit.
across the board.
That's awesome.
That's what it's
Like,
so there you go. There
So
you
wild. Holy shit.
Go. Yep.
I wonder.
And people don't understand when you're looking at the long-term ramifications of taking synthetic HGH, it screws up the blood balance like out the wazoo. Now, there's going to be somebody that'll be listening and go, yeah, but so-and-so came clean that he or she was jacked up on HGH and they were healthy. Well, good for them. They did it under the supervision of a physician that knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
Can it be done? Yeah. It's been done for years. Stop being so naive and make it right. But is it being done? Hell yeah.
I wonder if that was a tip from the Stewart compound.
I was just about to go
going
there.
yeah.
Like,
I'm in this big conspiracy that it was never actually Adderall.
That could be a thing too.
Oh, it was blood doping.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good because obviously, like I said, Rob, we all sat around this table and went, that's super weird that middle of the season here, you just randomly drop 9 pounds and you throw that out there,
especially
on
like
TV.
2 minutes
deal.
later, he talks about how hard it is to hang on to the 450.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, obviously none of us have had any major interaction with that kind of stuff. So the fact that I'm glad I asked that question because that's good. Good insight there of that's an easy synthetic HGH. Okay, so that's cool.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Adderall. People have to understand that Adderall is nothing more than for attention. It's very, very popular in the PGA, and it's started to get real popular in NASCAR. And NASCAR probably did the best job of sitting down on it pretty hard. Mm-hmm. But Adderall isn't going to give you the true fat loss that you're going to get with HGH. Now, let's not convolute. HGH has 2 benefits. 1, it'll make you excessively lean, and 2, it'll help you recover very quickly. Like if you've ever had a knee surgery, there'll be synthetic HGH in your IV drip to help facilitate recovery.
I've had it,
and that puts the pieces together for me. He's hurt and needs to get back on the bike. He needs to recover.
Yep. So if you you start adding these pieces together, so that's interesting. So, okay, I know, Cole, you were bringing this up next. Let's move on to the next person here. So let's talk Kenny. So obviously, Coach, we've all seen this in the last couple of years with Kenny having his issues, middle of the season type deal. We start to lag. Obviously Salt Lake City last year, those rounds for him were a disaster other than the one he won. And now this year we're hearing, I went into the offseason, I got out of shape to get back in shape. Now we're midway through the season. He's won 3 races. 3 races already? Has he won 4?
No,
Just
I
the
think
3?
He swept Indy, should have 4 because of Dean.
So he's won 3 races. He's 6 points up here. What are your thoughts? I mean, are we going to see Kenny's midseason lull here? Do you think he's going to keep it together?
4.
I mean, what are your thoughts here on the whole Kenny basically rebuilding himself by not riding outdoors last year?
Yeah, I think it's 100% credible. It goes back to what we just said a little bit ago. Periodization has not been respected in the sport. Mm-hmm. Eli Tomac has complained about it for years, and of course he's under the tutelage of his dad, world-class mountain bike racer. Small little world. I used to race against Eli's dad, John, in BMX. Mm-hmm. I've got pictures of him riding for Factory Mongoose, and
my dad used to race
guy
BMX
ripped on a bike.
Yeah, my dad rode
cool.
DGs.
Okay, no, I love it. So yeah, when you look at that whole picture of periodization, I think he came in with his batteries recharged. We know he's got a hell of a lot of skill. We know the bike is good. Whether or not he can keep Cooper at bay all depends on how bad the beatdown is from Cooper, because if Cooper goes into demoralization mode, I don't see Kenny being able to sustain.
Yeah.
If he just barely beats Kenny and Kenny knows he's in the dogfight, Kenny's always good. But if Cooper does his traditional, I'm not going to beat you, I'm going to rip your head off and spit down your neck kind of beat, that's going to be the demise of Kenny.
Yeah, I don't think Kenny can handle the mental game that Coop can throw out. He's really good with the head games.
You mean if Coop keeps writing red plate on the pit board and putting it in front of Kenny before practice, you don't think Kenny is going to be able to do that all year?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, as far as the racing goes, yes, they're on an even playing field. But when it comes to pulling those tools out of the back pocket, I think Coop has the advantage.
Yeah, that is one thing I really like about Coop. Between that and his racecraft, he is very, very good.
Yeah, and I think it goes back, like we were saying with AC, when you learn to handle defeat. Look at what Villapoto did to Alessi. Look at what essentially Coop has done in a shorter period of time than AC. And I hope that's an encouragement for the young riders. That's what I use that example all the time. Who gives a rat's ass if you win Loretta's in the Super Mini or Schoolboy class?
Yep.
You need to be coming into your own when you've got contracts on the line that are worth real money, not 50 grand and 6 bikes. That's ridiculous.
It's pretty much like the old Chad Reed saying, "I've never gotten paid to be first at the practice track." Right. So, Loretta's, you can get the contract from that, but you're not really getting paid most of the time through your Loretta's. You just need it as a, catapult to get you there, I guess. So
So a little off the rails. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so I was going to go a little off the rails, and how we kind of mentioned Coop there with his head games and the mental games that he plays. Does that stem back to the amateur days when you guys were racing against him? Was he starting to play those games and do that kind of stuff with you guys, or did that come after he got to the pro ranks, you think?
Yeah, I think it was, and I hate to say it because we were on the opposite side of the fence. I think Cooper had to learn to deal with defeat. He had to learn to deal with injuries and overcome those. I've said this on a couple public forums, but, I got interviewed by a European magazine, and they had asked me, what's my biggest concern about AC going from an 85 to Mitch's team? And I just said, I don't know how he'll deal with his first significant injury, because the whole time I had him, the only bone he ever broke was his sit bone. He had looped out at Waldo, and, that was a 3-4 weeks just, you can't cast your ass kind of a thing. So when you look at Coop had injuries as an amateur. He had injuries. I mean, look at him when he's riding for Star Yamaha, riding with a broken wrist and a cast. That's because he's been there and done that before, and that's just Coop. And I think Coop, being on a bike that wasn't as fast as AC, he had to be very crafty. We saw J-Mart doing it this last year when he was on Honda, trying to figure out a way to get around Flanders. What's the old saying, the mother of invention is necessity? Jeremy had to find something in a slow Honda. He had to find the power. He had to find the speed. Well, by the time he figured it out, Ferrandis was 8 seconds up, and he just couldn't bridge it. And I think, to answer your question, I think Coop really learned to deal with adversity in the amateur ranks, and then getting passed up and getting passed up and getting passed up, and then finally getting an opportunity. And again, Coop is a very loyal guy. He will never, ever forget and be grateful to Bobby for giving him that chance at Star when nobody else would. And now you take that, he's a little pissed off, a little jaded, been through a lot of adversity, has a very humble background, has great parents. Yeah, he's out to make a statement, and he doesn't mind fucking with your head with a pit board and some red ink. No. And he does. And what I love about it is he doesn't shy away from it. He declares it. He owns it.
Now,
Love it.
Let me ask you this: just from physically looking at Coop on the interviews and stuff like that, do you think he's getting burned out on that Alden program?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Do you think he leaves it soon?
I said that in the beginning.
Like Kenny did? I mean, I obviously know that was a different situation, but do you think he leaves it?
No. I'm pretty certain that he's got a contractual agreement that until Coop retires, they're going to be a couple together.
Interesting.
Wow. Interesting.
Super interesting.
Wonder if he just goes the Supercross only route then.
No, that's with KTM probably too. If he wanted to get out of that agreement, he would have to be off an orange bike. That's what it sounds like to me.
I'm sorry, I could barely hear you if that was a question. I'm sorry.
Talk in the mic.
I'm
talk in the mic.
You talk. Say my question, or say what I said for me.
So basically, you're saying that he's basically tied to KTM and Alden unless he gets out of a KTM contract here at some point. Is basically what you're saying there, huh, Rob?
Yeah. To not work with Alden, he'd have to be on a different color bike.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But in all fairness, I don't think that Cooper has a problem with the work. I think it'll be interesting to see if the fatigue level starts to really settle in, because Alden's been very vocal and verbal about, I don't care at what expense they win the championship. We're just about winning the championship. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty obvious. He burnt Dunge out. He burnt Villapoto out. He burnt RC out. He burnt James out. He burnt Kenny out. He burnt AC out. So, okay, if you can sleep with that at night, go for it. Zacco, yeah, absolutely. Yep. So if you can sleep at night, like we said earlier, to me, where's the moral fiber of you just fucked this guy's adrenals over, but you don't care because he won a championship. Well, that's like, I don't care that you're a drug addict. I sold you some drugs. Just use them. I'm a coke dealer. I'm just here to help your night be cool.
Yep.
Where's the moral fiber with they're a human being? We're not dealing with droids.
Yeah.
Where is that fabric? But again, let's kind of zoom out. It isn't Alden's fault. He's got an environment where, whether it's an orange bike, a blue bike, a red bike, a Hodaka, I don't care. If he's got an OEM that's willing to say, look, we don't care about the individuals, we only care about the championship, we're going to win at all costs. Now, I've never spoken in a closed-door meeting. The people that I know at KTM, I've never really got a chance to know Roger, but to me, those people really seem to care about the longevity of their athletes. I mean, look at how long they've kept Osborne's been on the program, and Jason Anderson and those guys. The idea is they want to build championships. Now, the way that they piece those together is what's always interesting. But, where is the fabric of the health and the integrity of the individuals is what I have to, because I'm not here to be judge and jury of anybody else. I'm just telling you that's what I look at, and that's why I'm so big into coach accountability. I would be happy to sit in front of your parents and say, you know what, we're going to build a healthy Travis, Cole, and Justin. And by the way, because of that foundation of health, we can take their ability to ride a motorcycle and take them to an elite level. But here's the key. We can get them there and it'll be sustainable versus be a short duration of time and then be chewed up and gone. That to me is irresponsible.
No, not there.
Who you guys want to go to next?
Well, I just want to. The last thing I want to say about that is it's very interesting that his contract with KTM, that he has to stay with Alden, which I guess would be kind of a given, with the deal that Alden inked with Husky and KTM. But that does make me wonder. Marv and Zach, we do know, don't have too many years left in this sport. I mean, I know Zacho says he wants to keep racing and doing this and that, and even maybe he'll stay with Alden because he says he wants to do GNCCs after he's done racing Moto and Supercross. But it does make me wonder if Coop, because we all kind of agree that unless something crazy happens, Coop probably has a long career, right?
Yeah, and I said in the beginning when he went to the Baker program, I just kind of his personality, I didn't think that he would be able to do it for a long period of time.
Well, and if he is, that makes me wonder what's going to happen when Marv and Zach retire. Yeah. If Coop's the only factory 450 guy left there.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be that way. They'll bring someone else in.
Well, yeah, of course, and they have the 250 guys, and I know it's a different program and stuff, but my point is that since he's been there and it's a short time, he's always had somebody to push him, whether it be, Marv obviously Zacho just won his outdoor championship, but Marv was always kind of there pushing him as far as the outdoors, and Zacho now in Supercross.
Jason at one point.
Yeah, so, it makes me wonder, if he's still there when all these guys retire, who is going to be his motivation? And Coach talked about it earlier, having different guys there and stuff, but who's going to be his motivation? Who's he going to be testing with? Who's he going to be practicing with?
I don't know. They'll put somebody on those.
But I feel like
who's going to be on that level?
But I feel like Coop has, him and Marvin and even Jason to an extent, and Zacho, they have a good rapport. I would say that they're all friends, but they all push each other on the track. And that's the thing is if you don't have a guy there that can get to that level, even on a lap-to-lap basis, I wonder if his motivation to go in and put the work in every day is going to slowly start winding down.
Well, I mean, you got RJ is there right now in the 250, and but
I don't see RJ.
He'll continue.
I don't
see him
push
on that elite level.
Yeah, I don't see that push from RJ though. And that's not a disrespect to RJ because you guys know the stuff that I've said about RJ over the years, but I don't really know if necessarily Coop, and maybe I'll be putting words in his mouth, is going to respect somebody like RJ as far as hey. You didn't even win a
this guy
title
can
in the
beat me on
class.
Saturday kind of thing.
Yeah, and maybe I'm thinking too far ahead, but I just knowing how Coop is that comes as a interesting topic that's going to happen in a few years or maybe even next year.
Yeah, I guess it could. Well, I think definitely next year for Marv. I don't think Marv is going much longer than through his contract, which might be this year.
And I don't see Zacho going too much long either.
I
mean, he's
when's
31
Zach's
now.
Contract though? See, two more years.
I
feel like his
I
contract.
think he's got 2 years on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got 2 years on his deal. I know Anderson's up this year. And going back to what you said, I think if it was anybody but Cooper, I think you would have a motivation issue. I think with Cooper, because of his as we were saying earlier, with his humble beginnings and a lot of aggravation, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to need to have a lot to push him.
Yep.
I think it's going to be the continuity of the program, because you could take a second tier guy, let him go 8 seconds ahead, and Coop's got somebody to run down. That would be my only caveat with that is I don't think Coop's fire will start to wane, only because of his upbringing, where a lot of these kids that are on a 250 program out there, and in fact across all colors, the majority of them have come from facilities, and they don't know how to go out and do anything by themselves. I don't think they know how to change their air filters.
Not at all.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. So that's where you're going to run in. I think that you're looking at the AC and the Cooper Webb. That's the end of the generation where they had to fight for everything that they had versus, like you were saying, kids are living in double-decker motorhome trailers in $1 million Provosts at a facility, and they're fucking riding 65s. You got to be kidding me. So the ability to keep these kids motivated, I think you're, as you guys said, the way the generation gap is there. Anderson goes out this year. You let's say Muscan doesn't come back. Osborne's got maybe a year left. Coop's got 2 years. I could see Coop being able to keep that fire going. The one thing that I hope that Coop's able to do is not become fragile the way Kenny and AC was and start having these little nagging injuries. That would be the beginning of the demise for Coop, I believe. Not because he's not tough enough to push through them, but it's just, as we've all witnessed, you get one, especially in that 450 class, you get these reoccurring nagging injuries. It becomes more psychosomatic than it does become physical, in my opinion.
And I also don't see Coop as a guy that, if he does end up winning this title this year, which I think he's going to get his second title, and who knows, maybe he has a better outdoor season and stuff and fights for a title this summer and stuff. But I don't see Coop being a guy that, I have a couple Supercross 450 titles and I'm going to quit now. Yep. I see him going and trying to win as many. And everybody will say, that's the ultimate goal. But we also know with James Stewart and Carmichael and RV and all these different guys and maybe even Dunge to an extent, they did get burned out a little bit and they had accomplished everything they wanted to. And they just were like, I'm done now. I don't see Coop being the guy that's, hey, I won a couple 450 Supercross titles and now it's time to retire.
I think there's one caveat there. I think there is one caveat, and that is, what's the value of the salary, win bonuses? Because and again, we've all been around the sport. We're fans of the sport. You get too much money too soon, and then you get a little bit of adversity, and they're like, I'm out. Don't need it anymore.
100%. Yep. So,
and that's going to be the slippery slope.
Nico.
That's going to be the slippery.
Yeah.
I think that Coop, I agree with you 100%. Coop doesn't just take for granted having the wins. And I don't know what his magical number is. Let's say it's $30 million in the bank. And then he does hit a few bumps in the road. And he's like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And you mentioned some pretty big names, the Jameses of the world. Remember when James Stewart wouldn't go race outdoor nationals, but he went down to Miami and did that Red Bull where you fly the motorcycle off the 3-store building?
Yes.
Yep.
And all the shit that hurt.
Bubba's World.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's making too much money and, again, can call the shots. Can you imagine being J-Bone, and you can't do a damn thing because he's James Stewart and he's going to do whatever the hell he wants, and not one of his sponsors are going to push back? J-Bone to this day still has my utmost respect. I would have lost my fucking mind.
I'd have flipped
I would have
shit.
gone absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So, you spoke about the nagging injuries there. Do you got any inside information on AC's leg injury here that he's had? I know you don't talk to him as much, but you talk to his parents, so I wasn't sure if you had any inside info there. I mean, I
Travis
feel
is
like,
an AC fanboy.
I feel like his broken collarbone's the best thing to happen to him because we all know he got the the elbow surgery or whatever for the nerves over the off season, and then he's had this nagging leg injury is what they keep calling it, and he keeps saying he can't squeeze the bike, but they don't say exactly what it is. So I was just curious if you had any idea.
That's my pet peeve of the sport also.
In 100% transparency.
Yes.
All the conversations that I have with his mom are very, how you doing? How you holding up? With his dad, I have my own biased opinion about how that fallout went between him and his dad, and Nick Way getting put into that position. I never, ever bench race with Alan C. When I communicate with Alan C., I'm checking in with him. He has a big fishing boat. He loves to fish. He buys and fixes up houses. I do text him, hey, congratulations. Don't forget you're the genesis for this guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sweat equity that he put in his son. And like I said, I have had zero conversation about Adam and his racing probably in 3 years other than great job, congratulations to his dad. But I have heard nothing about the leg injury until Trav, I'm almost certain it was you that told me about his thigh injury, not being able to pinch the bike.
Oh man, Travis, you're breaking news.
Breaking news over here.
Travis, look at you.
Holy
Yeah, that
shit.
was the first time I had heard about it. Yeah. Now I did hear that, the elbow surgery did have a little bit more complications, and I know AC was pretty he did pretty quiet about that. Mum was the word associated with that injury.
Yeah.
Which again, another stupid part of our sport. Again, you wonder why these athletes can't be tangible because we all run around with playing the game of charades, which is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly know nothing about where AC is at with those injuries.
Well,
I was gutted. I was texting Cooksey and Hopper. I'm like, hell yes, AC, because every week we do our predictions, and I always put AC at the top, and they always roll their eyes and send me the emoji back. Like, get off it. And he gets the whole shot, and I'm like, AC. And then they text it back, dirt nap.
Sounds like our texts.
AC just doing some AC things there. Yeah, the
AC's gonna AC.
the elbow surgery thing was interesting because I don't know if you listened to Pulp MX, but they had
No, I don't.
They had his new that doesn't surprise me at all actually. But they had his new man friend Chris Breeze on there, who's a baseball
got a
guy.
man friend?
Chris Betts.
Or Betts,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. Chris Betts.
Breeze.
Baseball guy.
And Betts was even saying, he's like, dude, when I talked to AC about that elbow surgery he was having, and he told me like, oh yeah, I'm riding like 3 days from now. And Betts was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, guys get this done, and they're out for like 6 months, and you're going to be back in 3 days? Like, what are you talking about? So that was kind of an interesting thing when that was brought up of like, wait, so was this rushed? And he was trying to make it seem like it wasn't rushed? Or was this not really rushed? And obviously, I don't have any idea. I have no medical background.
Just things
so.
I've heard, just like, Aaron Plessinger's contract with Yamaha or whatever, if he didn't complete a certain amount of races, he didn't get paid. So I'm wondering if there's maybe something involved like that where he's like, I got to get on this bike, I got to complete X amount of races or I don't get paid.
I'm also going to assume there's a lot of pressure on AC right now.
And pressure, yeah.
Because old Eli is on the way out.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, doesn't AC only have a 1-year deal with Cowie?
Yeah.
Did he get a 1 or a 2 year, or did he
This
get?
would be
I think they re-upped him after.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he,
but
I think
how
he's
long,
got two. I think it was a 2-year deal. Last year was a 1-year deal, and it was only a 1 year because it was basically an option that he was flexing off his pro circuit contract. But then they re-signed him for what I believe was 2 years.
Well, this is
Okay.
This is kind of a good segue then, Travis, to since we're talking about Cowie people right now, if you still want to keep going with AC, or we could either talk about Eli, because it's a good conversation with all the pressure on AC, or your favorite person in the world, Austin Faulkner.
Well, I have a question for Coach Robb about what he thinks is going on with Eli Tomac this year. Because obviously he's not the Eli Tomac
I
that
think it's
we
burnout.
have
I think he's
seen.
done.
So, yeah, that's what I'm curious. Like, Coach, do you see something that would
To me,
point to that? Or
yeah, it's called a fat ass bank account, a couple championships, and a new baby.
And a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I love it. So,
I mean,
Well, that
how
was
much
simple.
is enough? I mean, I don't know how much Eli's got in the bank, but I would imagine it's got to be 10, 12, $15 million if I just do some quick math.
sure.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
he's got
you
this
think
beautiful compound out
all
in
the wins.
Cortez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shit. What else does he have to prove to anybody? The baby came at the right time that he won the championship. Some would say that's a motivation. I would agree with that personally. But yeah, I mean, what else does he have to do? You got those young kids nipping at his heels that are willing to push that extra button. He's like, that's fine, dude. And then he tries to be aggressive and bulldog the bike, and whether you want to blame it on the track or the bikes or a combination of the two, if you don't get that whole shot, you're going to finish where you started, maybe a place or two. But those days of him being able to go 13th to first are just gone.
Mm-hmm.
One, because he's created a lot of enemies. So and holy shit, if Barsha's not in his head, I don't know who is, right?
Oh,
I mean, Paul Bass gets up on Barsha.
You couldn't pass him.
It's like, he's like, my best friend, I want to kiss him. I don't want to bump him. I'm like,
Yeah.
park him, move him.
All that money
Do
and
this.
still couldn't give Joey anything.
Oh God.
Sorry.
Don't get
I always
started
got to
on
do
that.
it. I always got to do it.
Yeah.
That's a can of worms we can't jump into. So, all right. Where did you guys want to go to 250 guys now?
Sure.
Well,
Ask
what
Coach
do you got,
about.
What do you got,
or-
Cole?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can go into 250s. What did you had another question you were going to ask, didn't you?
Oh,
Off
well,
Eli, or?
yeah. Well, no, it wasn't really about. Are you talking about what I was saying earlier?
Talking the microphone.
Are you talking about earlier in the interview?
I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, never mind.
Go
Cole,
ahead.
Cole
All
got
right.
lost.
I'm lost.
Let's move
I'm
on.
just
Let's
wandering.
talk about Coach's most recent protege there, Hammaker.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
and
this.
his debut ride that was awesome.
Big believer in Seth Hammaker.
Well, it's very awesome, but going back to what Rob had said about the Epstein bar and stuff previously, where is that going to go after this? Are we going to see it go
Podiums.
downhill, come out
Podiums.
swinging, or what's going to go on here?
Podiums.
Oh God.
So Justin's a big believer, and I mean, no doubt he has a lot of talent, but there is that X factor that
Podiums.
you had discussed before.
Yeah, I am. Seth is a fantastic. You talk about a man of integrity, great family, work ethic is there for sure. The fact that he went public about having the Epstein bar, there's a lot that goes into that and why that was even made public, the way that it happened. There's just a lot of behind the scenes pieces that people are just conveniently acting as if it never happened. The fact that Mitch went ahead and brought Joe Shimoda on, because it goes back to that Whiskey Throttle show when he publicly said, hey, look, I don't think that Seth's going to go the distance during the summer, or I don't know if he said the summer, but be able to go the distance. That's why Mitch put a fifth member on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been with Seth for quite a while now. He decided to go with Ivan Tedesco. My point and reason for saying that is I haven't seen any updated blood results. I don't know what the percentage of improvement is. The results on Saturday look fantastic. I really hope that he can keep that up. But I will say this, and this isn't a dig on Seth. This isn't a dig on any color bike or anybody that he trains with. When you understand what true Epstein bar and chronic fatigue is, okay, you can manage a 15-minute supercross race with the ambient air temperature in the low 70s, high 60s, 15 minutes of racing. But when we take this outdoors, 30 minutes plus 2 with a 1 hour break, that's where the rubber will hit the road.
Okay.
We won't know. There's no way for you and I to guess the status of his blood work, which is really the foundation of health. If he's firing on all 8 cylinders, he'll have a great outdoor season. But we know with the wear and tear of travel and racing and training, that wear down pattern, is he high? If you can imagine it, kind of like building a building. Does he have 15 or 20 stories that he can burn 4 or 5 of those and start outdoors with 10 left?
Yeah.
Or does he barely get through Supercross and start at ground zero and only go down from there? Supercross isn't going to tell us that. It's going to be the third round of outdoors that'll tell us that.
Okay. That sounds about right. So.
And I'd love to see him win. I mean, I love the guy to death, but to answer your question specifically, we're going to need a couple rounds of outdoors after you've got the wear and tear of Supercross. And I've always said it publicly, racing gets real when we go outdoors. That's why certain people only do Supercross-only contracts.
I think if he's firing on all 8 cylinders, I think that he's going to shock a lot of people. I've been a big believer
Hell yes.
in Seth, and I think that I love his story. And I think if he is over the hump of everything he dealt with Epstein-Barr virus and stuff, I think that I don't see why, depending on what goes on with Faulkner going into outdoors, why he can't be the number 1 guy on Cowie. And that's no dig against Joe and McAdoo and Smitty and all those guys, but I fully believe that I just don't think a lot of people are expecting anything out of him because his debut kept getting pushed back. And I think a lot of people honestly forgot about him. Now, obviously not people that are, up front in the industry, but I don't know. I'm a big believer in the kid, and I think that he's going to show a lot of people, hey, there's a reason why I have this ride and why Mitch kept it for me.
Yeah, but his debut in the 250 class is one of the only ones in, we'll call it, I guess, recent years outside of Jet that really was impressive. I mean, outside of that, most of these rookies we've seen over the last, 3-4 years here, I mean...
Well, you'll see at Daytona this weekend
shit.
with Thrasher and Fry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but think about what you're saying, though, because you're more on the point than you realize. what was it that Seth was forced to do before he came out and made his debut? He was forced to take a break.
Yeah.
Kenny took a break, came out, all 8 cylinders, stamped it. Seth, forced to take a break, comes in. What did you just say about these rookies that debuted? Got their asses smoked in the amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
2 weekends later, they're at an outdoor national, and then try to do that all summer long.
Yeah.
They never, I mean, think about it. They raced for almost 18 months straight before they got a break. Because amateur, you start at Mini-O's, that's in November, Daytona, Freestone, Spring-a-Ding, Mammoth, Area, Regional, Loretta's, and then 2 weekends later, you're supposed to be at an outdoor national and carry that through September.
Yeah.
There's not a snowball's chance in hell anybody can do that. So these amateurs, and I don't mean to be mean, but the way that Styles Robertson's, Jordan Bailey, the way that those guys debuted is absolutely zero representation of their capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's a result of an amateur system that doesn't give two shits about the riders, that gets shoved into a pro team, and the pro teams are like, we have so much money invested in you, you're racing, damn it.
Jalek Swole.
Well,
Jalek actually impressed me.
Jalek did impress me. Yeah, that was very impressive. That fourth was, I didn't see that coming.
Who did?
Jalek Swole.
Yeah. You have to think about it. Jalek Swole got injured, so he had time to he had a chance to regroup a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the kid's got natural talent. He's on a good bike.
And he's training down at Fair. Like, I don't know if he's on that offhand Alden program still, but he's been training at Ferry's place from what I know.
Well, it's terrible to say this, but it's almost it's not almost it is a blessing for these amateur kids that turn pro to get hurt and then have time off. As shitty as that sounds, but
yeah,
when these guys get hurt,
I agree. That's why I said. That's why I said you're on the point. You don't even realize it.
Yeah.
It's pathetic that it requires hurting an athlete before the sport allows somebody to have a break.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But we see it every year.
100%. So continuing on the 250s here, I don't know if you caught it in the broadcast of Orlando too, but they were talking about Hunter Lawrence. You know, obviously he's been hurt a lot since he came over here, and he basically said, you know, cleaned up my nutrition, all this stuff like that, and now he's feeling better. And basically they said on the broadcast that he basically said that his body was cannibalizing itself. Now, obviously, like we said with the Chase thing, it was one of those things that kind of shocked us, and then we were like, we don't really understand it. So I was wondering if you could shed some light on that comment and what your thoughts are on what might have been going on with him.
Well, whenever somebody is put on a calorically restricted diet, and I want all the listeners to think about this, and this is a little bit gross, but I hope we're all adults, we can handle this. When you go to the bathroom, unless you've taken a multivitamin, your urine should be relatively clear. If you took a multivitamin, most multivitamins have B as in boy. They usually have B vitamins. Those are your energy vitamins, B6, B12. So when you go to the restroom, if your urine has a real pungent smell to it and your urine is dark yellow, that smell is the ammonia, which is a byproduct of tearing down muscle tissue. So it's a very daily litmus test of whether or not you're getting enough protein, specifically amino acids. A lot of people don't realize that protein, not only does it rebuild muscle, but it also helps support the immune system. We'll put those two together. If you're on a calorically restricted diet, this is where you hear the word cannibalization. The body's pretty miraculous. If you don't give it what it needs, it will eat itself to get what it wants.
Interesting.
So, for example, if you think about hierarchy of needs, if you don't eat enough calories, you lay there in bed, your stomach's growling, your body's like, get up, feed me. But you're like, nope, I'm going to be dedicated. I'm on a restricted calorie. I'm going to be a champion. And your body's like, F you, get up and feed me. Okay? Now, if you take that illustration, take your little one, don't let them eat for 8 or 9 hours, and then tuck them into bed and say, sleep good.
Good luck, Travis.
They're not going to sleep.
It's not happening at all.
Yeah.
That 6-year-old's going to be at the side of my bed asking for food.
And what do you think Hunter's been doing? He's been begging for food. Nope.
He's jetting
You're on a
donuts.
calorically restricted diet. You're on a 250, not to mention it's a slow one. You've got to be fast. You've got So what do? Remember we said earlier, you get these little assholes that get in their brain.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden we wait until the wheels fall off the bus. We wait till we get sick. We wait till we get injured. And then what happens? Finally, people go, hey, now that we've damn near ruined him since he's been here for 3 years, maybe we should actually pay attention to the principles of physiology and give him what he needs, not what somebody that is a so-called trainer is over there telling him what he should be doing. Again, are we not looking at the concrete evidence?
I mean,
This is insane.
blood work is pretty concrete. It's what's flowing through your veins. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and last time I checked, we're in America. It isn't really hard to get some blood work done.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, he's pissed. Jed's eating donuts,
Yeah.
and he's eating, I don't know what he's eating.
Yeah.
Now, do
Well,
you... Oh, go ahead.
go
Keep
ahead, brother.
No, it's okay. Finish your
I
thought
just
there.
think it's interesting when you look at somebody like Jet that's making a little bit of a mockery of eating a donut, going against the grain of everything's got to be so hellfire and brimstone, everything's got to be so extreme. And he's like, yep, just won the race, give me a donut. There's just a lot of little innuendos that people seem to miss. All the little jabs that that Roxon and AC have taken towards Albin.
Yeah.
Oh,
About
those we haven't-
Jason
I love
Anderson, about yeah. But my point is it's like now we're looking at Hunter. He's been on the same program for a couple of years, and if you look at the history of that program, it has the same result, and yet we're expecting a different outcome.
Mhm.
It just drives me insane.
Definition of
I
insanity.
apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt your. Amen. That's what. But for me to be sitting out here, you guys are kind enough to give me a forum. You're asking questions, and I hope the listeners don't think I'm pissed or jaded or on a soapbox. I'm just disappointed that as a sport that wants to grow, we're literally degrading our stars.
Yeah.
With a couple guys that are got an inroad to some of these OEMs that convince them that they know health and fitness, and what the hell are we doing?
I mean, if they want...
That's why I said to you earlier, I'm not doing pros anymore. I'm not interested.
I mean, if any of the listeners want to point at you and say that you're, on your soapbox or whatever, I mean, we can look at the straight hard facts. Dunge rode with you as the trainer for what? 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? How many years did you guys do together?
We didn't even get a year together.
Oh,
we
really?
only got Supercross that first year. Yeah, we only got
I thought you were
Supercross
with
that
him
first
longer
year,
than
and
that.
then no, sir. I
Oh,
only
I
got
sound
him
like
for
an
6
idiot now.
months,
Never
and
mind.
then-
Job, Travis.
I'm so stupid with this stuff. Never mind. Okay, so my point is invalid. I quit. Okay, so
Nope.
so let's continue on here down our little path then. So Hunter obviously having issues with not eating enough, calorie deficient, gets hurt all the time. Are we looking at that same type of thing with someone like Austin Forkner, where every time he hits the ground he gets
100.
hurt?
100%.
Okay, all right.
And look at that last injury. Okay, I'm not. Lord knows, he's going faster than I've ever thought about going on the dirt bike. I do not want to sound like a pompous prick here, but you look at the get off. Was it last year or maybe even 2 seasons ago when he yard darted himself in the whoops?
Nashville, 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years ago. Then you look at this one, and I understand. Yes, you get wheel spin, you're not going to make it. But at this level of racing, it's like there's just enough of these little minute misjudgments. And okay, it was a misjudgment. Well, to me, that's a sign of fatigue and low blood sugar. We could talk about that all night long.
Mm-hmm.
The second side of the problem is, yeah, he hit the ground, but it wasn't like he got yard darted the way that Jeremy Martin did.
Yeah.
And yet he broke his collarbone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chase Sexton. I've never been as fast as he's ever been, but him coming through the sand and he side swapped. I don't want to sound like I'm not being, I know he's hauling ass through there, but it wasn't, he was coming out of the sand, accelerating. And yes, I understand for every action, there's an equal and equivalent. He side swapped and hit the face of that.
Yeah.
But I've seen Jeff Emig take stuff way harder. I've seen Stanton take things way harder.
I seen Ricky hit a boat.
And I don't want to sound nice.
Yeah.
What's that?
I seen Ricky hit a boat.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. I know the bikes are faster and all that, but to your point, the silly mistakes seem to be happening, and the ramifications of those mistakes, they seem to be off the Richter scale. I just don't understand it. And that's why I have to agree with you. I think you've got somebody, we're back to the asinine system that we own. You've got a kid that's out there that's not 100%, has to race. We all know his contract's up this year. We all know he's not going to get signed. What do you think he's thinking?
Yeah.
3 years in the points league and throws it away every year?
Oh, yeah. I keep asking these guys, I go, how many times does he do this before he doesn't have a ride anymore?
No, Hep
Well, just think
Suzuki's
about
over
who
there.
he
Just,
rides with.
Hep Suzuki's rubbing their hands together.
Oh God.
They're going. hey, they're getting Jordan Smith next. Jordan Smith's their next
Man,
dude.
leave
No,
Smitty
they'll
alone.
take Forkner over Jordan
Leave
Smith.
Smitty
Come on
alone.
now.
I think
Well,
Faulkner's
and the
got one
problem-
more contract in him before Kawasaki drops
No, man,
him.
it's gonna be a Martin Davalos thing.
But
He's gonna be in the
Smith
250s
is
until
out.
he just points out.
Jesus.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point, Travis. Who's going to sign Faulkner next year? I can't think of anybody that'll touch him. Where's he going to go?
I think he's still got. Even though for me, yeah, I'm not signing him because you, like you said, and like I've said multiple times, how many times you got to be in the lead and know that if I just turned it back 5%, I wouldn't hit the ground and I'd still win. But yeah, I don't, and I fucking do this shit like this, and then I'm hurt, and then I'm not racing.
That's why outdoors would be very interesting, in my opinion.
But I think Faulkner's got one more Cowie contract left. Now, don't get me wrong, he's going to ride for not a lot of money. If he wants to stay on that PC bike, I think he's going to ride for not a lot of money, and I think it's going to be maybe
Like a
one
Shimoda type kind of
one-year deal.
contract.
Yeah, like I think it's going to be a highly paid bonus program, we'll call it, for winning, which he'll sign because he knows he
or a
can
Justin
win.
Hill JGR thing.
Yeah, but outside of that, yeah, I don't think so. But Jordan Smith, I think Jordan Smith's done. I think he's absolutely done. He can sign to like a lesser team. Maybe a Hep Suzuki, maybe say a Club MX deal or something like that. But he's done on factory bikes. He's eliminated himself at this point.
Yeah, I would have to disagree with you. I don't see Faulkner getting re-signed because there's too many good guys that are available, and there's too many coming up that you're 0-3. At some point, and I hate to say it this way, but Mitch was so invested in AC, he couldn't afford to not keep him on the program.
Yeah,
He's just not that way with Faulkner. He's not that way with who you just mentioned, Jordan Smith.
Yeah.
He's with nobody like that. And at this point, Mitch, he can be pretty cutthroat. I mean, he's a very loyal dude. He'll do anything for anybody. But Mitch is the kind of guy. It's like, all right, we gave you 3 chances, and I hate to say it, you can't win at PC. Where else are you going to win?
Yeah.
Mitch has also got Jet Reynolds and Ryder D coming up.
Yeah,
so
that's true, too.
He's not really worried, I don't think.
I just don't see it happening. I see Mitch going, hey, dude, you're a great kid. I know you tried hard, but I put as much money in as I can afford to lose. And I understand what you're saying. Even if he raced for free or bonuses only, I just don't see Mitch being willing to invest those resources anymore.
Yeah.
Which, again, goes back to what's going on behind the scenes. What kind of fatigue level are you dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it sad that on PC that Shimoda, the 11th hour signing, is going to be the best dude on the team this year?
Wow. Yeah.
No, Seth Haymaker will be the best on the team.
Well,
but,
okay.
And Cam
for the
McAdoo
coach,
just got second.
Shimoda will be the best buy.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think outdoors would be very interesting for Faulkner if he comes, because he's missed the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because he's been hurt, and people, and I almost think people forget that how good Faulkner really is outdoors. I mean, he won his rookie year. He won a couple motos. I think he didn't get an overall, if I remember correctly, or maybe he did while Schugel. I don't know.
I don't know if he does. I did.
But
Well,
it's going to be
and
very interesting.
That
for him.
opens up another. I would agree 100%, because if he gets pissed, and we know he can haul ass outdoors, it could be another one of those like a Mike LaRocco. We all cringe during Supercross, but we can't wait to watch him outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
So does he get the nod that outdoors he's worth every dollar in the world, and they just put up with him for Supercross? I don't know, but I think you bring up a good point. If he stamps all these guys that killed him in Supercross outdoors, that would be, Travis, that's where I would have to agree with you 100%. But we'll have to wait to see how he does outdoors to see if he gives himself even a chance.
I'm not going to be wrong. It's going to be a tall task beating Jeremy Martin on that Star Yamaha. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but think about the dogfight. If they're both healthy, how freaking awesome would that
Yeah.
be?
Oh, it'll be just like
It's gonna
J
be
Mart
awesome.
versus Ferendez last year. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we could see an epic type of battle. Yeah, I would agree with you 100% there. That could be like the race of the summer. I am partial to the Lawrence brothers. I would love to see them because, like Travis, like you and I spoke about, let's not forget that the reason why the reason why Jet's even here is because of Hunter.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if Hunter comes into his own, think about that. What kind of an outdoor series could we have? Both Lawrence brothers, Forkner, Cooper, Amart. I mean, and I'm leaving people out intentionally, but just those 5 guys, you've got a hell of a race on your hands outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially with some pissed off people from Supercross that got hurt early. Because think about it. We were talking about how these forced injuries allow you to come in recovered. Can you imagine the 8 or 10 guys that are already out? They now get a 4-month reprieve.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take the guys that had the momentum, and then the guys with momentum meet the guys that are fresh. We're going to have probably one of the best outdoors, both classes, some of the best bar-to-bar racing that we've ever seen outdoors.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm ready.
isn't it? But it's pathetic because of injuries, not because of the way the series gives a shit about the riders.
Yeah. Now, does anybody think that Kenny doesn't ride outdoors this year?
Oh, there's no way he's riding out.
I don't.
For sure.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
Especially
I
if
know
you
he
win-
took last year off, and that was kind of a special circumstance deal. But, maybe he goes, oh, well, I like this, and I do really
I
well
like
at
what it did for
Supercross
my
then.
body. And
Yeah.
kind of thing like
I
that.
don't think so, man. Because like people forget though, and I think that Coach talked about it with certain guys that only like Supercross, and we've all talked about it, but people forget, like, we see how good Kenny's doing, and we know how good he could have been had he not gotten hurt, but he has 2 450 outdoor titles.
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget, Kenny is not a Supercross specialist. He's an outdoor specialist. He
and-
just...
Even though he took last summer off, I know
I think
he
he
was
would've won last
watching.
summer.
He would have won that title,
I think-
but
yeah.
he was sitting there chomping at the bit. Like,
Without the heat...
I could race 80% and still win.
Seeing how Eli did, no disrespect, Travis, to your boy Zacho, but if Kenny would have been there outdoors,
Look, we proved everyone wrong. We won a 450 title.
I understand that, and I'm not.
We-
And this is not to be
this
taken
we
away.
over here.
did.
Yeah, it's not me taking away from Zacho and stuff. And we all saw good how AC did after at Red Bud and on. But I think a lot of people look and go with the way that championship went. If Kenny would have been there,
Yeah.
I think Kenny wins that title. And especially if he wins the Supercross title, I think outdoors he's going to be going, well, if I'm back to 100% in the 2016, could have been 2017 Kenny, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
I'm the best in the world outdoors.
Yeah.
Not, aside from guys in hurlings, I'm the best in the world, and these guys got nothing for me.
Had to throw that in
Sorry,
there.
I had to throw Hurlings in there.
is not the best in the world there. Let's just tone
He's the
that down.
Okay, he's fastest in the world outdoors.
Do we need to get what's his nuts on here to
Who?
tell you that he's not who it's Sleater? What?
What?
I don't really care what Mike Slater has to say.
Because he definitely was talking a bunch of shit about how Hurlings was not the best dude.
Who
in the
did he
world.
say was the best in the world?
I don't remember.
Did he say an American?
But no, I don't know that he threw out who was.
If he said
But he
Geyser,
was
that's
he was
understandable.
very much on the Hurlings is not as great as everyone thinks.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
I mean,
Yeah,
I could talk about that
totally
for hours.
disagree with that. Hurlings
he's
is
awesome, but he gets
on
hurt.
a different planet.
He
Well,
does.
that's true.
He
That's
does get
true.
hurt a
He
lot.
gets hurt a
But
lot.
so was James Stewart.
Well, yeah.
But this argument is not championships and stuff like that. It's who's the fastest in the world, and I'm picking
Just
Hurlings
raw
all day long.
speed, raw everything.
Yeah, I mean, how many times does he have to beat everybody in America?
I will give you that. The raw speed right now, yes. That guy out on any outdoor track, period, yes. He is the fastest dude in the world right now.
From managing a championship standpoint,
I mean,
He's
did you-
terrible. He's fucking terrible.
But see, though, look when he won his last outdoor championship. He completely missed almost 2 rounds and still won.
yeah, but
handily.
but he's not gonna. He's
No, because he's had so many
gonna be
injuries now.
he's gonna be a James Stewart type rider to remember. Super fucking fast, couldn't stay off the ground to get the titles to make him the best ever.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. I've
Okay,
never
great.
disagreed
As long
with
as
you
we're on the
about
same
that.
page with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
But
We're all right.
But I'm talking about as far as raw speed. If there's anybody that thinks there's a guy that's faster in the world at hurlings outdoors, they're not paying. They just don't like hurlings.
Yeah.
It's like the same way I was a conversation with Eli. I'm not an Eli fan, but you can't disagree with his statistics and his wins.
Yeah.
And like I said, how many times does hurlings have to beat everybody by 45 seconds? Ken Roxon, Eli Tomac, everybody included, before people go, yeah, maybe he's not winning all these championships, but there's nobody faster than him on an outdoor track.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as we're on
Well,
that. Oh, go ahead, Coach.
No, you go back to like what Cole said earlier. I think it depends on where is Roxon halfway, or let's just say at the end of Supercross, I'm going to predict if he gets a beat down and loses Supercross, he does not race outdoors.
I would say that's probably a fair assessment.
Like, you mean like beat down as far as like he just loses, or like he loses the points by quite a bit?
By quite a bit. Okay. I think if, like we were saying earlier, if Coop comes in and doesn't just beat him, but just humiliates him, I see Kenny, because lots of money, doesn't really need to go outdoors. He'll find a reason to say that, whether it's his Lyme disease, his AC disease, his A disease, his shingles. Other disease, shingles, small cock syndrome, something's going to get in his way.
HIV.
Now he can't go race outdoors.
Oh, yes.
Because his contract allows him to. That's the hard part. A lot of our listeners may or may not realize his contract's guaranteed whether he races or doesn't race. Mm-hmm. Where you look at some of these guys, like you said earlier, don't race at least 50%, or when I say race, you have to at least be on the gate for the main event to even get your salary. Mm-hmm. That's why you see the behavior being, look at Coop when he didn't like the Yamaha. Well, because he came off a championship, his contract allows him to say, I get paid whether I race or not. So, hey, I don't like the way the Yamaha handles, and I have a hangnail, I'm not racing outdoors. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
And that's the way some of these contracts are. Like you were saying, if he can just get paid, and I may be completely talking to my a-hole here, he may only get 50% of his contract. Let's say that the second half of the year, he may only get, my point is he's still getting paid, whether he races or not.
Yep.
People don't understand that. So I think that if he's not on the top and he's not shining like a superstar, he'll conveniently not be feeling good when we go to outdoors, just based on what we've seen the last couple of years. But I agree with you. And I think that was Cole speaking about, you cannot deny Roxon on that RCH Suzuki, sans the one set of forks that blew out. He was unstoppable.
Oh, 100%.
We saw the true Kenny outdoor. Yeah.
21 of 24, 20 of 24?
Everybody goes back to
20.
that Millville ride with the bent shifter.
Oh, and you mean when he came from dead last to first in a matter of 2 laps?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and let's not forget, no disrespect, that was on a Suzuki.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yep.
It was the last time
Suzuki
Suzuki
he just
good.
made...
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Think about that. And it's... So, do we know Kenny can do it? Yes, none of us would bet against him. Does he want to do it? All depends on how humiliated he gets. Now, I could be eating crow. He freaking just stamps the second half, like we were asking earlier. Does he pull through the second half? If the answer is yes, now we've got a 450 outdoors. That would be wonderful, because now you got him on his A game. You got Coop that's out for redemption. We don't know if Eli will show up or not. But, all of a sudden now you've got Chase Sexton who's in there, Barsha that wants to bang bars, and AC that's trying to redeem himself and make himself be the top dog on Cowie. And we know what those internal fights are like. Mm-hmm. Those are spectacular. Yep. We love those. It's not like both of those. It's not like AC is making, 10% of what Eli is. It's not like when Villapoto had Weimer on the team. It was no big deal if Weimer won here and there. But when AC can take dominance as the premier guy on the team, come on. You don't think he wants that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just for bragging rights at the momentum, as Lance Armstrong says, AC is going to want momentum to change zip codes. That's for sure.
Travis, notice how Coach left off your boy Zacho on that list?
Hey.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I left off what? I'm sorry.
You left off Zacho. I was telling Travis, because he's a Zacho fanboy, that you didn't mention Osborne. So, just kind of had to jab him with that a little bit.
Well, but think about it. We're just like everybody else. He's not much of a contender in Supercross. We forget until we get a couple rounds, and we're like, oh, yeah, remember Zach, and
bingo.
Remember Anderson, and remember Mooscan, and remember...
Hey,
Yeah, it's just...
Then he comes out and he wins the opening outdoor, and then we're like, oh, shit, Zach, #1 plate, red plate, holy shit.
Jesus.
Yeah, whatever, man.
And then we're right in there in it.
Whatever, man. You know what? When Zacho loses, you'll go to AC, and then when AC's having an off weekend, you go to Sexton, and then if Kenny's... Man, what are you going to do?
He's slowly going to dwindle down, and 7 Deuce is going to be your boy.
You got so much to jiggle. You got so much to juggle around, man. You got so many guys. Eventually, you're going to be on my boy Max Anstey's train.
Oh, my God. I don't want to hear it from you guys. I don't want to hear it. All right.
Well, you think about those teams. You've got you've got Kenny and Sexton battling for top dog. You got Cowie with Tomac and AC battling for top dog. And then over at KTM, either Osborne or Muscan, one of those two guys want to knock Webb off the map. So not only do we have, just bar-to-bar racing, but then you have that in-house camaraderie, rivalry, whatever you want to call it. Then you look at Yamaha. Oh, that's right. Neither one of them matter. But, you get my point. It's just like,
whoa. Damn.
Yes.
That was a gut punch.
Yes.
I love it.
Rob comes in with these
but I
zingers,
love-
and it's awesome.
well, I love Plessinger, but he's on this Yamaha, and I think he's in the same curse that Cooper Webb was. Win the championship on a 250, be worth millions of dollars, and then just wrestle this Yamaha 450. What the hell is going on with this bike?
I think he's taken a step a little bit better with them
just
transitioning
finishing.
back to Star because those guys know him.
But he's finishing. So
Yeah.
I've heard some things where his contract is a little more relaxed too, where this kind of goes to like a Dennis Rodman thing where you got to let the guy go have fun to perform.
go hang out in the woods.
And I get what you mean. He's kind of a little bit of a party boy off the track sometimes, and I guess Yamaha, the factory team, was like, you get caught doing anything like that, you're done.
Yeah.
And I think Star allows him to do those kinds of things.
I mean, Star has like 30 riders, so they gotta.
Yeah.
They really don't care about.
Well, they probably all party together.
What's the over-under that they double up the amount of riders they have next year?
Well, they got Nick
Pretty
Romano, Levi Kitchen, and Matt LeBlanc coming in. So that's.
I think Kitchen's going to be the best out of those guys.
Maybe.
So do I.
If he'd call us back, we could interview him and ask.
And we hadn't even talked about Ferrandis going outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if he can get along with the 450, I mean, we know he can ride outdoors. You can never count Plessinger out. But again, if you look at Supercross, we watched the Yamaha start top 5 and fade to 11th, 12th, 13th. It's pretty hard to vote for Yamaha when they get a good start and can't keep it up there. And you've seen Barsha go off of it. Malcolm every once in a while gives it a little bit of spark, and then he plays bowling ball with everybody. He turns left in a right-hand turn. I mean, I don't know what else to do.
Oh, man.
I love the Yamaha jabs.
I mean,
that 450 is just, there's something obviously wrong with that thing.
I guess,
Nobody can
but
perform
then
on it.
look at Frenchie's rides, okay? He's been on the box. Last week at Orlando 2, he basically was in the pits to start, comes back to where the hell did he finish? It was high. He was basically about to go a lap down
11.
and then just literally
And I
came
can't
back
remember who
around.
was
If
ready
you
to
looked
lap
at
it.
lap times, I think JT made this comment, but lap times were he would have been right up in the top 3 fighting the whole race.
Yeah, he just had some issue. I can't remember what it
Shifter.
was. Shifter, okay. Pulled in the pits, and then, is almost getting lapped, comes back out right in front of the leaders, and then just comes all the way back around to inside the top 10. I mean, he's impressive on that bike.
But where was that at Orlando 1?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
'Cause
inconsistency.
it's not like you change it. It's not like you change cities where the dirt type change. It's like, because I would love to see a Yamaha get up there. Chris Cooksey and I were always teasing because Hopper calls it a stink bug and everything else. And Hopper defends it because he's got one, Cooksey's got a Yamaha, so he defends it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I would like to agree with you, but Cooksey says it all the time. In stock form, it's a bike that we all could do well on. But that factory bike, nobody, help me out, you guys are historians. I go all the way back to James Stewart. Who was on the Yamaha before Stewart? Maybe Barsha, or was Barsha after Stewart?
Chad.
And that Yamaha
Chad.
could not perform on a 450 platform.
Chad couldn't make
Chad,
it work on
Langston.
the 450.
Well, Langston won the outdoor title, but once again, that's outdoors.
Wasn't Brayton and
No, Brayton was
Grant
after
on
Stu.
there before? No. Okay.
Grant was on in 09.
So Stu won 09, and then 2010 he went to San Manuel, and that was the new bike with the reverse engine.
Yep, that bike
And
was turd.
yeah, and then he did decent in 11. Still, I think one of the best seasons that we've seen.
Yep.
Chad, 2-2 Motorsports,
But he aired
Dunge
him-
defending.
But Stu aired himself into the ground.
Yeah, but he lawn darted himself a lot. And then obviously the whole JGR debacle. If JGR couldn't figure things out, then something's going on. So even that custom tank that they built for him.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, when Chad Reed says the Yamaha guys won't even listen to what recommendations he's made, you're like, really? And then you think about how J-Bone's hands are tied there. And, Coy Gibbs has got pretty much unlimited resources to fabricate everything and anything.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't turn it around.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, oh man. I don't want to be negative Nelly, but shit, if JGR can't take and turn it around, who the hell is going to turn around? I know Star's trying, but right now it's not looking too good halfway through Supercross.
It's funny, though. You look at the GPs, and those guys, they haven't won a championship yet, but with Sewer and Coldenhoff now coming on the team, but Sewer and Paul Land and all those guys, they make that bike work. So maybe the American team needs to collab with them because they got their bikes dialed.
Well, that's what happens when you can change your frame.
Well, yeah, but still,
I mean,
everything they're doing over there, though, that bike is not like if you ask the guys over in the GP pits, the Yamaha bike is one of the most sought after rides. They want, and that's not even a full factory team.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to look at the difference though, because think about it. Here, we can't change the frame, can't change the swing arm. Any of
Well,
that.
they got carbon fiber
But what
all
I'm
over
saying
that
is
thing.
their
too, so.
engineers, though, are doing something. Even though you can change the frame, they're doing something to make those bikes handle. And everybody likes to bitch over here, and they're getting just as much help with the factory teams over here as they do over there. So my point is, they're doing something right.
I think the rules are a little loose here, so you can kind of bend them a little.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they should take note from those guys over there.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh man. All right. Where you guys want to go next? I know we're getting pretty long here, so we probably start wrapping up here soon. Coach, you got a can I ask you a hard question? And you don't have to answer it if you want to.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can ask me anything. Ask me anything. Go ahead.
So we all know you used to do the Cooksey and the Coach podcast there.
Oh boy.
And we all know that went downhill due to some things that I won't throw out there, but I was curious on your thoughts on it. And if you don't want to answer on the air, that's fine. We can talk about it off the air. That's no problem. But I was curious on your thoughts because I definitely have thoughts about it, about how it all was handled and not able to be done anymore. So.
Yeah, no, I don't mind. There's no reason to smokescreen or mirror anything. With no names of companies being mentioned. Excuse me. Chris was essentially threatened with his job that if we didn't take the show down, he was going to lose his job. And he has a very young family. And like I told him, I said, man, we're in this together. If it's not both of us, it's neither of us. And if there's a chance that one of us is going to pay the price, then there's no reason for doing it. Mm-hmm. And that was literally that is the absolute 100%. He was pretty much told to stop or run the risk of losing his day job. And so we stopped. And until, what point is it? I guess we got into some subjects that I don't know if it's a person, a group of people, organizations, both. They didn't like what we were talking about. I guess they thought we were getting a little too close to the fire. And so they made some phone calls and as the old saying goes, they made shit happen. Mm-hmm. And that was our show got shut down. And, I have too much respect for Chris and for his wife and his two little ones, for us to be able to expose some of the truth and ask some of the hard questions evidently didn't resonate with everybody. And out of respect for Cooksey, we have to, cease and desist, as the old saying goes.
Yeah, me and him have talked, and I like that guy a lot. I appreciate the fact that he takes time to talk back and forth with me through DMs, period, and would share and make me privy to that information because I was asking. I was like, dude, where's the show? And he didn't hesitate. Like, he definitely told me, what was up, and I was pretty much blown away of like, wow, this is real life here because to me it's like I want to make phone calls and be like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like, what the hell is the matter with you? So now again, everything happens for a reason. If that doesn't happen, I may never talk to you, or maybe a long time down the road before you and I hook up, and then I have you on my show, which it's great for me, but at the same time I feel bad for Chris. And I told Chris, I was like, if you ever get to the point that you can do something, call me and, we'll put you on the show. I don't care. Like, you can come on our show if you can't even have your own. But
Travis, don't you know, Mathis says if you're not at the races, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't go to the races most of the time.
Yeah,
so
we don't go to the races, so our opinion sucks.
Yeah, but we're watching it on TV. And
no,
just
we're not
like
there.
90%.
We're not there. We cannot
everyone.
comment on it.
Look,
okay?
Coach,
we can relate to people more.
This is Justin speaking, so I want just so you know who's it coming from. I'm not the biggest fan of Steve Mathis. I listen to his show, but both of these guys know I can't fucking stand Steve. I really can't.
Look, I need information.
I understand
and he gives me good information, so I have to.
And I won't name a rider, but we did an interview with a certain person that I'm close with over the summertime, and that person even said, "There's no fucking way I would go do an interview with that guy."
Yeah.
And this was a former pro circuit rider, and I can't stand him.
This was a pro circuit rider that I interviewed in a Geico Honda
Yeah,
shirt.
Travis
that
wore a
told me
Geico
he would
Honda
not
shirt.
do an
Yeah, I
interview
do all I
with
can to
Steve.
get this interview, and then he shows up and he's in a Geico shirt, and I'm like, what the hell?
He still did the interview, all right?
He
It's fine.
did, but he was like, what are you doing?
And Ryder even said, "Nice shirt."
It's totally fine. Situation was normal, all right?
Oh god.
No big deal.
Well, and somebody blew me out on Johnny Hopper put together a video, and he kind of mentions it a little bit. It's talking about rider safety and stuff like that. And I put a comment up there just to let people know, again, just let them know the truth. I have nothing to hide. And the reason why I say that is some guy blew me out and said, hey, if you're going to get to where you talk on the fringes, you need to go all in. And I'm like, you obviously don't understand, or you didn't read what I commented. If I go all in, Chris Cooksey loses his job.
Yep.
Now, how fucking selfish can that be? So for me to be the guy that calls people out, and one of my best friends is no longer employed, I mean, this is the problem that I have with, as Daniel Blair says, the angry fingers. Like, do you have no insight outside of just your own little self-centered world?
Mm-hmm.
I would never say anything that's going to cause a friend of mine to lose his job. It's not about I want to be the first one to get it out there. I want to be the one to tell the truth. I would love to tell the truth. But the context of our conversations and the volatile points we brought up germinated from Cooksey and the coach.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what, you idiot? If I go out in another forum here, anywhere else that I go, my own show, whatever it is, well, guess what? The backlash is going to be Cooksey loses his job.
Yep.
Now, if you're that fucking stupid and you don't understand basic economics, all right, well, guess what? Continue to live in your mom's basement, because I don't know what else to tell you.
So
It's
everyone
not how
on
the real
Vital.
world works.
So everyone on Vital MX.
Yeah, there you go. But like you say, it's a shame. But we'll be back. It's just a matter of when and how.
Yeah, well, hey, like I said, anytime you want to come on the show,
This janky radio show.
Yeah, and vent about anything, because we are not
radio
tied to the
show.
industry, so we can say whatever the hell we want. They can't shut us down over here.
Oh.
So
Oh,
Well,
no.
that's what Hopper says all the time. I don't report it. I just make fun of it. And I'm like, that is the quote of the week for me.
yes, that is perfect. He's
Good stuff.
I don't report it. I just make. I mean, he does a good job of doing that too. He'll definitely put some stuff out there. He's not scared, which is great. So, but again, you got.
Well, what I think is funny is the keyboard experts that are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, dude, if you truly know what he knows and the fact that he's being that vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's his route with PEDS or whether it's his run-in with the AMA or being censored by the media, if you think this guy is trying to make shit up, you have got to be one of the stupidest people that love motocross, because that dude has zero reason to embellish anything. And if you don't see that, there's a reason why he's got 15, 20, 22,000 views in a week on a video, because people are starting to realize, holy shit, this guy can't be ostracized. He can't be, there's nobody, what are they going to do? How is somebody going to come after him and try to censor him? But because they drank the Coca-Cola syrup and they believe all the other talking pundits that want to spin it, well, that's okay. You just continue to stay in your, influence world. But eventually, as I said in my comment on Hopper's latest video, the truth is so close to coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like, well, you keep beating around the bush. If you're going to make the declaration, go deep. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. I would love to, but I can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would love to.
Well,
the ramifications are much bigger than me, dude.
Well, and I don't know, because you said you don't listen to Pulp, so I don't. Maybe I told you this the last show, but so Steve made a comment on there about like people talking about the races on podcasts and stuff that don't go to the races.
Okay.
And how he doesn't, I guess, approve of that, and like got very, very vocal about it. I think he was talking to who was
Talking about Gypsy Tales.
Was it Wes? Well, it was Wes he was talking to.
Wes
Was it Wes
Williams.
about the Moto Spy series, and he was basically saying like, "Oh yeah, I should be the only one in there." And Wes is like, "Well, we need to, broaden our horizons and have more talking people in there than just you." And Steve went on this whole tangent about like, well, how are you going to comment on the races if you don't go to the fucking races?
Yeah, Steve talking to Wes about anything moto related is dumb because Wes did something with a company that we had never seen before in Verb Moto, and the fact that after all these years they were gone and he brought it back and it's just as popular as ever.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't listened to that interview, Travis, but the fact that he was saying anything to Wes, it just blows my mind because it's like Wes was an innovator in this industry for stuff that we had never seen before.
Yeah. Well, and now it's like the coverage is so good. And that's why, Coach, we make fun of it because it's like we go to races when we can, but we don't go to all of them.
Yeah, we have
we're not
day
on
jobs.
that level. Yeah. So, and then he was even going as far as like, so have you heard of the Gypsy Tale podcast? Oh, yeah, you've been on there. Never mind.
Wow.
Stupid. I'm so dumb tonight.
Boo.
It's late. Leave me alone. I haven't eaten in 6 hours. My blood sugar's low.
Whatever, man.
Anyway.
No worries.
But yeah, so, I mean, basically to the point of, like, saying, like, this, like, Jace should not be commenting about it either. And it's like, what? And, like, he's been making fun of it in his podcast, too, which I just think is hilarious because I honestly think he is the one guy here that is going to come and eat Pulpamex's lunch.
The fact that he's doing it from Australia.
Yeah, and he's doing it from Australia, where literally right now he cannot leave the country to come here to even be at the races if he wanted to.
They're like the third or second biggest podcast in all of Australia and New Zealand.
I thought I heard the other day he is the
he might be the biggest
in Australia
now. Yeah, he might be now.
But yeah, but it's
well,
wild.
And the part that cracks me up is Mathis doesn't even go to all the races.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he's a bitch.
Well, and the best part is he doesn't go to all the races. So then you have like, was it I think it was Orlando 2 he didn't stay for. And then he's on his show on Monday talking about how, I didn't watch first practice on the app because I was out mountain biking.
Same thing with outdoors. He doesn't go to all the outdoors.
And it's like, wait, what? So you're telling people that they can't comment because they don't go to the races. But then when you don't go to the races, you also don't watch all of it, which the rest of us do. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Whatever.
We're nobody, so it doesn't matter. That's why we can say whatever we want.
I think Mathis needs to take a step back, and I haven't listened to any of the reviews this year, but like apparently he's getting to the point that people, even on the Vital forum, which I find hilarious because they're like, they suck Steve Mathis' dick. Him and JT, like they have their back and forth banter, but I guess the last couple episodes have gotten like over the top that they like can't stand it because he's just argumentative about everything. I think honestly, Steve, he's been doing it for too long. He needs to take a step back because now he's getting jaded. Yeah, like I don't know. I can't stand him.
He's retiring, bro.
He needs to,
which will be great.
Sure.
Well, it's one of those situations. It's kind of like when somebody does a bad job long enough that the fallout at the bottom is greater than the new in the top. So you end up with a net gain of a negative. And that sounds to me like where he's going. You know, it's kind of like you go, it doesn't matter if it's a retailer or whatever. Eventually, here I am in the human performance world. Let's talk about trainers. Trainers have enough of a bad reputation that there's more people that are dropping out of these trainers programs that are coming in. That's why you're seeing a lot of them deviate from the sport because essentially they've been called out. Mm-hmm. You know, if it wasn't for some of these trainers having their son now coming up, they would no longer be of any relevancy whatsoever. So they would be already pushed out. I mean, think about it. Jeremy McGrath could walk through the pits and half the young kids today don't even know who he is.
Or the best part, they'll ask him to take a picture of them with some other rider, which is hilarious to me.
Yes. Yeah. And it's no disrespect to Jeremy. My point is eventually you become irrelevant just by the nature of the aging of our sport. Mm-hmm. The problem that you run into is when you tell enough lies and you spin enough truth, eventually you're out there long enough that you've got enough dings against you. That's why the people that are cheating with PEDs, the truth will come out. Look at the Tour de France. It will come out. Yep. When? That's the interesting part. When you're out there fabricating truths or you're spinning something, you do it enough times. Like you said, Vital, maybe the group is starting to catch on. I don't know what it is because I don't listen to it. I refuse to give my resources of time to him. Mm-hmm. The idea here is when the fallout number is bigger than your growth numbers, you have a negative net gain, you eventually disappear. It's just economics 101. The cool part about it is, as the old saying goes, thanks to social media, the world's a much smaller place. So yes, you can get and spin a bunch of shit out there But if you spin a bunch of stuff and you can't substantiate it, you have no place to hide from it because you just have documentation after documentation, or people have screenshotted and now you've conveniently pulled it down off your Instagram or social media. That can only happen so long before you're pretty much figured out that you're just a farce.
Yeah. Well,
and it doesn't matter if it's trainers or whether it's podcasts, it's all the same.
My favorite part is his best friend JT argues back and forth with him about, well, all these football and baseball and hockey people, they don't go to all the games, so but yet they have shows on TV, mainstream TV, basically.
Look at ESPN.
Yeah, that they talk about the football season, all this stuff. So I mean, your point is somewhat irrelevant there, Steve. So
everything Steve says is irrelevant.
Well, all I can picture is somebody just beating their chest like a gorilla saying, I'm the only one that should be allowed to be a player. And because I'm affiliated with the Racer X's of the world and all this other stuff, that I'm supposed to be the only player. Yeah. I'm like, wow, that sounds a tad bit out of control and a tad bit egocentric. But okay, if you believe it, go ahead. Keep, I guess, drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, like I said, we'll just let him do it till he, gets old and just poops in his diaper in the corner and retires.
It's good for us.
Well, here's what I think is funny. I haven't looked it up, but I'm going to make a note and do it tomorrow. I'm going to go look at how many views does he get on his YouTube Pulp show and how many does Johnny Hopper get in one day.
Oh, Hopper definitely gets more.
And where the momentum is coming.
Yeah. Hopper definitely gets more. I could already probably tell you that with definite 100% certainty that Johnny's definitely getting more for sure.
Johnny gets more, and Jace over there. I'm saying his name right? The Gypsy Tail guy, Jace, right?
Yep.
And then you got Jeremy. You got Jeremy Hammer as well.
He absolutely. Those guys absolutely kill him.
So if you look at it this way, he can go out there and say he needs to be the only vocal piece of the sport, but yet the people that are calling him out are getting the lion's share of the views. That's why you see them getting louder and louder, because they're becoming more and more uncomfortable with the message that's getting unveiled, and people are connecting the dots. And when that momentum starts to shift and that exposure comes out, that's what everybody's deathly afraid of. And that's why I keep saying it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the house of glass, the house of cards will continue to start to unravel itself.
Yeah.
And it's because of those kind of blowhard comments. I haven't seen it or heard it, and maybe if you don't mind, send me the link, because I'm not going to waste my time looking for it. But if you know it off the top of your head, send it to me. I'd love to watch it.
I'll find it. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Yep. So, okay. So wrapping up, anything else you two want to ask Coach here?
No, I just want to thank him for his time. Every time he comes on, I know this every time, but this is the second time he's come on.
Every time, hopefully for future reference.
Hopefully for future reference. It's always great insight, and really opens up my mind to when we're BSing and bench racing in the future. Some points that I'm gonna have that may have not come into my mind before. So, again, like I said, thank you for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. I know we're stroking each other's egos, but I mean it sincerely. I love being able to bench race and having an environment where, if someone's offended, they can just stop listening, but allows us to be able to share our thoughts and our feelings. And I appreciate it very, very much. And I'm happy to come on, whether it's a regular cadence or just when you have a hole, I'm happy to fill it.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time of having you as a regular person.
Well, dude, it'd be pretty cool the next time.
I'd love it. Yeah, you just let me know so I can get on my calendar. I have the same thing with Ben Greenwood in Australia. We do it the fourth Thursday of every month, and like I say, happy to do it. It's especially as the racing gets more and more in depth, I guess, and as we transition to outdoors, it'll get even more exciting to see who can even get to the starting line at the rate we're going.
Well, Travis, the next time we have Kevin on, I mean, I know Kevin after the race is a low, he's every time, but if we have Kevin and Colton, then next time we get Hubert on, and if we can get Mosman on and stuff, have Coach on there, and just kind of like the last time he was on, just have a roundtable discussion, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely.
That'd be awesome.
And I know, Coach, we talked about getting some of your amateur guys on here at some point, and I am currently working on actually having a schedule laid out with when the show is and stuff like that. We're trying to get more.
We need to get more organized over here now that we're starting to dive into it a little more.
So get more interviews coming on here. We're
Yeah, we have
Things
to
are
we have to
changing.
be regular time, boys.
Yeah.
No, it sounds good. And you invested in all this IT stuff and all this technical digital stuff. So, hey, got to get your money back.
Yeah, that would be great. As I've told some other people, like if I could just get where this part of it is self-sufficient and I'm not pulling advertising budget from the powder coating side of everything to pay for all of this stuff would be awesome. My girlfriend would really love
That
it
would
too.
Yeah.
she would be like, "Yes,
I would imagine.
this is the best. You don't
Well,
have to."
then
pull
hopefully
money.
Kevin doesn't get a top 5 soon, because then we don't have to do bonus money.
Look, first off, that was you two who ran
Oh,
your
that's
mouth
right,
about
that's
that. Do
true,
not
that's
drag
right.
me in
That's
with
just
this,
us,
okay?
but-
All right. Hopefully Kevin doesn't get a top 5 soon. Then.
Well, we'll see. He's
Well,
got
who's
one
coming back?
round.
Who's going to be back?
And
Is
say-
Hampshire going to be back? Like,
I don't think a lot
we're
of those
rooting against
guys-
our boy, but
Yeah. I mean,
So, all right, Coach.
Good
So
stuff.
before we let you go, where can they find you if they want to get any information, supplements, whatever from you that you are anything you're doing right now, training wise or anything like that? Where can they go to find that info on you?
I appreciate it. First and foremost, do not buy my supplements. Eat real food. And once we get blood work and we deem it necessary, that's when supplements kick in, and I mean that sincerely. No, anybody can check us out if you're into racing. CompleteRacingSolutions.com is a great place to start. You can find us at the same, what do they call it, Instagram handle or whatever that is. It's at Complete Racing Solutions. If you're looking for videos on how to train, strength training, flexibility, it's Coach Robb with 2 B's, Coach Robb Beans on YouTube. But I do want to give my assistant's email address out. If there's a listener frustrated or just wants to drill me, contact at CoachRobb with 2Bs.com. I cannot say this enough. I know there's a lot of bullshit that's floating around out there. High fat, no fat, high protein, no protein, high intensity, low intensity. I'm going to show my age here, but this is my 37th year of doing it. And we've been through it all, as I tease you guys. If it's on the nutrition side, we've been through Zone and Atkins and South Beach and now keto. We've been through super slow, super setting, P90X. I mean, insanity. Now HIIT training, CrossFit. The extremes are ridiculous. My point is this. If you have a question why it's working, why it's not working, hit us up. I don't care, because this sounds so hokey. It's not about whether you guys are a paying client. I do my own emails. Jennifer kind of categorizes them and sends them to me. Jennifer, by the way, she's the one that answers the emails, contact@coachrob.com. She categorizes them just so, like, if I've got 25, 30 emails, and they're in the nutrition category, at least I know my mindset is I'm just answering questions about nutrition or maybe injuries or whatever. Hit us up. Happy to help. I'm not trying to make or convert somebody into a paying client. What I want to do is get you answers to your frustrations. So when you go to the CompleteRacingSolutions.com, yes, there's resources there. There's articles and videos and coaching programs. We have a very inexpensive membership program. It's $15 a month, but I do 2 live webinars. Has all the training programs, both on and off the bike. It has nutrition and sports psychology. And hey, the only reason why we created that membership area is because people asked for it. So hopefully that fills a void for somebody. And like I said, if we can help in any way, we've never gotten a question that we thought was stupid. Now I take that back. I did get one question about somebody that said, does smoking really have a negative effect on your life?
Oh,
that was a serious question that I got promoted, that somebody asked me.
Oh, boy.
And I'm not mocking them, but I was really surprised considering this is not 1980. We know a little bit more about smoking, but that was the only one that I was kind of surprised. I actually thought it was a joke, but I responded and they thanked me back for answering the question. So I guess it was sincere. So
Wow.
Good to know.
maybe I shouldn't have said that one, but
Hey, it's all right.
please hit
No
us up if we can help in any way.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Coach, again for coming on. Again, I really appreciate it. And like
Very
I
much
said,
so.
we're working on the schedule here and trying to kind of look at when the amateur nationals are here, so we can get some of your guys on. And we will definitely have you on again to bench race here and talk some more about all the ins and outs of the industry that we don't
Quite know about yet.
Yeah, over here. So since we're all outsiders looking
No, it
in,
sounds
so
good.
all
That
right.
sounds good. And thanks, Trav. Thanks, Cole. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
No
Take it
problem.
easy.
We'll talk to you soon, Coach. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
How was that for you two?
That was great.
I mean, that was my second one, so I've been through the initial,
No.
oh my God, this is great.
Yeah, and like I told him right there, when we're doing our race reviews and stuff in the future, it's really going to open up my mind. Like, if some guy goes up there and he eats shit, like, let's point at his trainer. Or if a guy has a continuous year of just shitty, he makes a trainer change and has a program change, then yeah, it's a lot bigger of a consideration coming into that new season if that's really going to make a difference for a guy, you know? So
Which also, like you like to shit on Smitty, it really shows the whole MTF thing isn't working out like everybody thinks it has.
yeah, I mean, if it would have worked, Bar should still be there, right?
Exactly.
So
And Davey would have stayed there, and Martine would have stayed there, and
Yep.
all these different people, and you know.
yeah, it really opens up my mind into that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. So
But it's that same way though for everybody and stuff. Like all you know, coach, like he said, you know, all these people that want to be trainers.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be on the actual riding side of it or the nutrition side of it, and you know, the average fan doesn't really think about that. They're like, oh, you know, they're a trainer. They got to be.
Yeah.
You know, they got to know what they're talking about. These guys, these millionaires, and these top level athletes. It's kind of like when you think of football, you know, or baseball or basketball. You're not going to think one of those guys is just going to hire somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. But we do have that problem. We do in this industry, and I don't know why, but there are a lot of guys that like to pretend they know what they're talking about, and we just assume that, oh, it has nothing to do with them. But it is, because they're feeding their rider the wrong information. You know, and we don't always, like I said, we don't always talk about it, but it's a conversation that has to be had. You know, sometimes it's not always on the rider. I know that they're the first person we want to blame because they're the ones riding the dirt bike, but it's not always on them.
Yep.
It's on the people that they surround themselves with, which is also their fault too. Not saying it's not, but a person can only process so much information before they have to have help from other people.
Yeah.
You know?
yep.
Yep.
I also love the little jabs.
Oh,
All the way through.
all the jabs, and it was awesome.
They're just subtle, like humble jabs, if that makes sense.
I wish I would have brought up the treadle thing though, because I didn't know that Coach had done anything with treadle. And I
Yeah,
would've-
that's definitely a topic I want to get on. I really wanted to ask him like where he thinks Treadle's trajectory would have went.
I think it would have been high. I really do. I was high on the Ian Treadle train for a long time.
So it'd be interesting to ask him that next time he gets on. And I just love the synthetic HGH.
Oh, dude, he just went
See,
there. But I like Coach because he doesn't hold.
He's no
anything
bullshit.
back.
He's no bullshit. He's not gonna shy away from conflict. I mean, obviously he had to with the whole Cooksey thing, but that was because him and Chris. Chris couldn't get. He didn't
That's
want
just
Chris.
having Chris's back, man.
Exactly,
So-
and but that's the thing though too. That shows you how loyal Coach is, because a lot of people in this industry, and we know the people that they are, whether we know them personally or otherwise, that they'll
of sneaky
they'll flip.
snakes.
They don't give a shit. They'll flip on you
bunch
Yeah.
of
and try
little
to blackball
snakes.
you know. And Coach doesn't seem like a guy that's. He's pretty straightforward. He's
yeah.
going to tell you like, hey, you know, and I hope that he didn't have anything to say off the air because he said something about, you know, hey, conversation to be had. But yeah, like he's no bullshit. And he's going to tell you like, hey, these guys are doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves from the industry.
100%. And
it
that was the point.
pisses me off.
That was the point I was kind of trying to make there until I looked like a fucking idiot with the whole Dunge thing. Was I thought he worked with Dunge a lot more years than that.
Yeah.
And it's like you see him work with Dunge for that many years, and Dunge basically, you know, he's the diesel. He doesn't get hurt, doesn't do anything, and then Dunge switches over to Alden's program. He's there for 4 fucking years. Was that what it was? Maybe
3, 4.
3, 4.
2015,
15, 16,
20.
I mean, he
17.
switches to Alden's, wins his 4 titles, and he's out. And I
didn't-
don't think he was out because he's over riding. I think he was
I'm-
out because he was over.
He's burnt out.
Yeah, it burnt because, again, what do they do at the baker's factory? They
Which is-
turn him and burn him.
Which is why Coach is probably right. Coop's probably going to be the one guy that probably never does get burnt out
Yeah.
because of just the way he was growing up. But yeah,
Yeah.
you look at all these guys and they all got burnt out. Everybody.
If Coop does get burnt out though, and that contract is that way, he's got the leverage and be like, I'll go ride for whatever team I want.
Yeah.
And another guy that people forget about that actually trained with Eldon for a little bit during the RV and Weimer days was Rattray.
Yeah.
Rattray trained with him too, and that didn't last long either.
No.
And you're talking about a guy that
Baggett,
loved
Stu.
Yeah. Well, people forget about Stu. Because that was such a short-lived thing. People forget about right after Ricky, it was Stu.
Yeah.
And
It
Stu
wa-
went 24-0 with him.
Yeah, exactly. And then look what happened afterwards. Like
Yeah.
after a year of it, he's like, I can't do this anymore.
And then he starts
Yep.
talking about the eating deficiencies and stuff like that when Stu Stu just always looked, maybe he had that little bit of fatigue and made those mistakes and stuff like that. It all makes sense.
You look at Stu, and he was one of those guys, and this would have been a great thing to talk about with Coach, because obviously he fucking knows.
Hey, he'll be back. He's
You look at Stu, and
not
he's
scared.
one of those, and we all know the types, but Stu was one of those naturally in shape guys. He was naturally fit. He didn't have to work that hard. He even said it back to the 125 days. Oh, I don't train off the
Yeah.
bike. I just do motos. And it was one of his quotes when he first got a lot of money. He's like, oh, what I do for training is I do this in my Lamborghini. They're like, I'll go do motos all day long, but I don't train off the bike.
Yeah.
But Stu was always naturally in shape, which opposite Ricky was never like that. So it would have been great to talk about with Coach, like how, somebody is, but like, that's the thing. Stu didn't like to train off the bike. He liked to do on the bike work and then go have fun off of it.
Yep.
And that's the thing is that that's why I dislike the fact that everybody's like, oh, all these guys that go train with Alton, they become champions. They were champions before they went to Alton's. Zacho is the real only guy that he ever made a champion that wasn't a champion before he went there.
Yep.
Other than that, everybody that ever rode for Alton that won a title had already been a champion before they went
In the
there.
250 class.
Yep.
And it annoys me that people are like, oh, Alton did this, he did that. No, he didn't. He just tweaked things. Had nothing to do with. And that's the thing is anybody ever watches interviews that Alton will do when he's talking about riding?
Yeah.
You know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
He has no fucking clue. So I don't know. That's why I don't like when people say, oh, they wouldn't have won a title without Alton. That's bullshit. Even Anderson won a title before he went there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wish that more people understood how smart Coach is and the fact that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves.
We're trying to get it out there, buddy.
Yeah, we'll try to get it out there. We'll try.
So, but, I mean,
Maybe we'll have to
this
collab
small
with old Johnny
podcast
Hopper.
compared to what he's usually on.
I just
but-
thought about, I thought it was always funny. He was like, yeah, for the viewers out there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well.
You got to
I'm like, how many
understand, we're
viewers-
running a real limited viewer.
This ain't
Yeah,
even like
well-
it was back in the day.
We'll
Well,
have
hey,
to
that-
collab with old Johnny Hopper,
Hopper.
there.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be real cool.
But that is something I have to say with him is that he is, and I've told him before too, Coach there, he's way too nice.
He's very accessible.
Oh, dude, like you would not believe the text he sends me thanking me and all this stuff, and I'm like, you don't understand. You're doing more for me than I
More
could
than us
ever
that we
do
are
for
for
you.
him, yeah.
So like,
But I think that goes back to how forward he is.
yeah,
Because he realizes, like, hey, not many people would let him say this kind of stuff.
But that's just something too for the viewers that are out there. When he says, "Hey, email me," you don't have to be a customer to get an answer out of me.
Cole, you can
that,
email him?
That is not a lie.
I've thought about it.
You gonna
He
email
will.
Coach?
He will.
Do it.
Where's this pool? Get this money pool going. Let's
he
see what
will-
kind of money we
he
got
will-
coming in.
He will help you out if you email him and you want it. You know.
Let's see what kind of backing we can get.
We need to call Rusty.
I'll go.
on the
I already
next
looked at
show.
the schedule. There's 2 races in Wisconsin. There's one at Muddy Creek.
Oh, there you go.
Like,
See, we're in. Get Rusty to bring out one of them rental trailers.
Could hit the back half of the
there.
East Coast.
Yeah, we'll go.
It's definitely a lot better than last year's schedule.
We'll load the gas and the 250F up, and we'll go.
We'll make a series out of this, man.
Yeah.
We'll do a vlog.
I know we really could. It'd be fun. It'd be
Would
cool.
be a good time.
It would
It
be
would
cool.
be a good time. Okay. All
All
right.
right. Well,
Dude, it's been 3
well,
hours.
I got to go home and train on the Xbox. I'm working on my racecraft, and Rusty Nuts is
Yeah, I
Are you
haven't
getting,
eaten,
you
I
getting
haven't
that
eaten all
forearm
day.
training later, too?
forearm training.
Up.
What?
What?
What are you guys talking about? I was talking
I
about
don't-
Xbox.
Forearm training.
I was talking your forearm training. I was
Get
talking
one
about
of them
Xbox,
forearms
man.
strong.
The old lady lives with me now.
Okay, we're just
That's not
rambling.
going to make your forearm stronger.
We're,
That's
we're
gonna
just
make
rambling.
horrible
We got to get past this
forearm.
here.
What forearm are you talking about?
Oh my gosh! Quit
your
talking. Let me wrap
actual
this up.
forearm, man.
Oh my god!
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
All right, everyone. Thanks
Yes,
for
wrap
tuning
it up.
in to
Wrap
another
it
episode of the
up.
Moto Aftermath Show, presented by TLR Coatings and Premier Custom Trailers. Again, also JT Cycle and Dirt Bike Depot on board here. Episode number 159.
Not bang or about to do.
Mid-season wrap up here. Talking to Coach
Halfway
Robb.
awry.
Thanks again to Coach Robb for coming on. Make sure to check us out on all the major social media networks, and we will be back next week wrapping up Daytona.
You're not in Daytona, right? You're not
I'm not going this year.
Are
no.
you guys coming in studio next week?
Yeah, I'll be here.
I think I'll be here.
I'm going to try to
yeah.
make it to every wrap-up show now.
Okay.
Now my
All right.
schedule. Schedule's a little bit
Yeah.
We're keeping it the same time, 6 to 9.
No more ghosting.
6 to 9, giggity.
Man, there was a lot going on.
I
Now
know.
that everything's calmed
I know,
down,
I
I'm
know,
trying
I know.
Did you just really? Did
6
you just
to
do
9,
a Family Guy?
Giggity.
Giggity, yeah.
Giggity, giggity. Giggity goo.
Maybe you can hit up Mosman again. And
The
see
ghost is back.
I'll DM him and see if he responds.
All right.
So, all right.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see y'all next week.